My name is James Blissett, professional gambler and founder of Lucrative MMA, which is my handicapping service where I help people make money betting on MMA. And today we're doing a little late notice, last minute prop stream for you guys. And I got a special guest in here. I've been speaking to this guy on Twitter. I've been speaking to him on YouTube a little bit over the last few years. We decided to hop on. I think it's the first live stream we're doing together. So hopefully it goes well. We'll see the synergy. The guy's a good gambler, great MMA analyst, and I'm excited to get into this card with him. How are you doing? It's MMA prediction guru.
Yeah, man, good to be here. It's crazy. You said we've been talking for a while. It's like I went back. I was like looking on my Instagram, and I saw we were DMing like 3 years ago talking about fights. So yeah, man, it's long overdue that we get on and do a video and break down some fights. So pretty excited. I know you want to do some prop based stuff this time. So yeah, man, let's get into it for sure.
Sweet, man. And MMA prediction guru is coming straight off the heels of the PFL event. Like you was actually there in attendance. Let me
Yeah.
ask you, because sitting at home, right? PFL, the pacing is so bad. They wait like half an hour between each fight. And after the fight's finished, us at home, we're just sitting on our sofa like, Jesus Christ, hurry up, man. Like, is that how you feel inside the arena? Or is it a little bit different because you're there socializing and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean to be honest, today I didn't get that kind of fan feel because I went there as media, so I kept going in the back and there was like scrums and so it kind of didn't feel like probably like you felt like we were just sitting around doing nothing. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I mean one thing that event I feel like it was kind of a lackluster event even at the venue. There wasn't a lot of people there and but yeah, I mean hopefully next week they got a Shane Burgos versus OAM, so hopefully that one kind of pops
Mhm.
off a little more. But yeah, the pacing for PFL when you're watching it on TV is crazy. It's not as bad as Ryzen. Like if you watch that, where they have the 2 hour intermission, all that crazy
Yeah.
shit. But yeah, it's still it's definitely annoying. They gotta I don't know if it's an ESPN thing or what. I don't know why they do the pacing like that. But yeah, I agree for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get straight into the card, man. I'll bring up the first fight of the night, which is actually a banger. Like, I'm really excited for this fight. And Sam Hughes always brings it, right? But I don't never find myself saying like I'm super excited for this Sam Hughes fight. But obviously, on the other end, we got Jacqueline Amarim, and we already know what she's about. So, I'll kick this one off, man. Jacqueline Amarim is an absolute beast on the ground. She was in the Brazilian national wrestling team. In my opinion, her wrestling doesn't look great, but honestly, we haven't seen much of it in MMA. She obviously knows how to hit a double leg. I will say though, I think she shoots from very, very far out in MMA. And being on a Brazilian national wrestling team, I would have thought that she'd be able to set her takedowns up a little bit better. But I mean, that's the only real criticism I have from her at the moment. She was LFA champion, running through every girl. 6 first-round finishes in a row. She even got a finish on the feet at one point. She knocked that girl out in 10 seconds. So she's a force to be reckoned with, and she's coming in against Sam Page. Sam Page, obviously, been in an organization for a long time now, a couple of years at least. She's had, 4 or 5 fights in the organization. And it's a tough one. I think on the money line, this isn't a money line show, but I mean, you can see it down there. I mean, a plus 220 underdog for Sam Hughes, I think it's about plus 200 now, but I don't really agree with that just because I think everyone taking their massive step up in competition, making their UFC debut, it's very hard for them to justify minus 250. But if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be an out and out specialist like Jacqueline Amarim. So there's a few prop bets I like on this fight. If you want to play Jacqueline Amarim, I mean, I wouldn't really be laying minus 250. It's just not my style to lay minus 250 on debutantes against someone I respect in Sam Hughes. I know she's got 15-minute cardio. I know she's durable. I know she's tough. So for this, if you want to play Amarim, I'll be targeting a prop bet, maybe wins by submission. But I'm actually going to go with the Sam Hughes wins via decision here because it's a massive number. So Sam Hughes via decision is plus 350. Now, look, if the fight gets past round 1, maybe Sam Hughes does just melt her because we don't really know what Amarim has in round 2 and round 3. She doesn't look like she's gassing out in those 1-round fights, but she's getting literally 0 offense back. Nobody is affecting her with any shots. Nobody is pushing the pace on her. She hasn't had any adversity. So maybe she just crumbles in round 2 or round 3. But at the end of the day, these girls are lightweight. They're 115 pounders. So I do think that if the fight gets out around one, it probably goes to decision. So I'm going to give Sam Hughes via decision. It's plus 350. I think it's a decent shot. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of broke it down pretty good. I agree. I feel like for Amarim, it's kind of like interesting though, like you said, because if it gets out of the first round, Sam Hughes is someone that's known to kind of push the pace, and she's gotten some late round finishes. Both these girls have a lot of finishes. I think Sam Hughes has finished 5 of her 7 wins too, and Amarim obviously has all 6 first round finishes. So I don't know. I feel like Amarim, if she can get it to the ground early, which Sam Hughes, her single leg defense looked really bad in her last fight. I don't know what that was because I don't even feel like her opponent was really a great wrestler. So, but like you said, I'm not truly sold on Amarim's MMA wrestling because it doesn't seem like her entries are the greatest. So, like, if I was betting a side, I would bet on Sam Hughes. But I'm kind of going to go the opposite direction you were. I'm going to go with the under. I think the under at plus money is decent value just because I think if Amarim is going to win, I think there's a high likelihood that she'll potentially win in that first round by, I don't know if she'll knock her out. I think that knockout with Megan Owen, I mean, hard to really say that's going to happen too many times, a 10-second knockout like that. But if she can get it to the ground, which Sam Hughes, I'm not that sold on her takedown defense, and I don't think she's really fought anyone that's had really a huge submission threat. Pinheiro, I guess, is a judo girl, but I don't think she has like quite the same level of jiu-jitsu as Amarim or the danger on the ground. So I think the first round she could easily get the finish, or she could get it to the ground and kind of almost get the finish and then potentially, like you said, get melted or something like that. So I think the under at plus money is decent value. But yeah, if you're going to go with the Sam Hughes side, it's like by decision at plus 350 at 115 pounds. I don't think you can really go wrong with that either. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I actually would play the under actually.
Yeah, I agree with that in terms of, I gave plus 350 Sam Hughes decision in this show, but if I was going to play the under or the over, I would definitely play the under because I agree with you. It covers most of Amarim's win equity, in my opinion. Like if Amarim wins, it's very hard for me to see her winning the decision just because her win is basically predicated, in my opinion, on getting top time on Sam Hughes. And if she gets top time, she's going to submit her. Like if she gets extended top time, she's going to submit her, if she's having her way in the fight. So you basically cover all of Amarim's win condition. And then obviously, as you said, Sam Hughes can break girls late. So yeah, I think that's definitely a good shot to take. I was surprised to see it plus money. I already have a bet on this fight, so I don't want to overexpose myself. But if I didn't have a bet, I would actually probably play the under. So we'll go straight to the next fight. Steve Garcia versus Nuerdanbieke. This is a good fight, This is a banger of a fight, actually. Like any Steve Garcia fight is a banger. And I'll let you take this one away, man. What do you think of this fight and any prop bets on this fight?
Yeah, this is a crazy fight. Like you said, whenever Steve Garcia's in there, it's kind of like hard to really know what's going to happen. I mean, you saw the fight with Charlie on Tavares. He gets dropped, like 2 or 3 times in the first round and comes back and wins. And he's just a crazy guy. He's southpaw, but he just goes in there and throws like wild hooks and tries to close the distance and has decent takedowns against the cage, it looks like. And then Nuerdanbieke, I mean, his last fight, I don't think he could really, it's kind of a, whatever, the James Krause thing. But he actually was better than I expected. Like when he first came to the UFC, I didn't think his striking was as good as it actually is. I think he does have an ability to maybe like land a counter and knock Garcia out. I think it's like a 50-50 fight. I don't really agree with the line personally because it's like Garcia's a lot bigger and he could get the finish or he could get himself knocked out. I think Garcia's going to be the one kind of controlling how the fight goes just because he's going to be super wild and kind of pushing the pace, and it's going to be Nuerdanbieke could catch him early, I think, and knock him out, or go to grind him out for 3 rounds. I mean, it's kind of, I feel like there's going to be a finish in this fight. Honestly, I really do. But Nuerdanbieke, I mean, one thing about him, I do think that he is showing a lot better performances in the UFC because you look at it on the regional scene, he was fighting so much, man. Like he was fighting like 15 times in 1 year. So that's how you get like almost over 50 fights. So I feel like
Yeah.
now that he's spreading it out, he's having camps, he's probably taking these fights way more serious, and he's probably trying to really rest and recover in between fights, not going with injuries and things like that. So I do think he's showing a better product, and I'm going to lean towards Nuerdanbieke. I'm going to say he gets a first round KO, but I think the value is on Garcia, and I'd play like Steve Garcia money line or the under, or maybe I wanted to bet Nuerdanbieke by KO. I just wish we would have got a better number. I didn't really like the number, so I didn't bet it. But I was hoping it would be like plus 300, but it was like, I don't know. I think it was like plus 225 or plus 160, something like that. But yeah, I didn't end up putting a play on this one outside of the under. I think would be like the best play to do. But yeah, I'm not really having a great read on this fight on who I actually think is going to win, honestly. But yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I agree. This is going to be a great fight. I do think there's going to be a finish as well. For me, man, the prop bet I like on this fight is Garcia via TKO. I mean, it's plus 480 in some places. Best price
Yeah,
plus 480.
that's a good
And
price.
then, yeah. I mean, it's plus 480, and then you got like Nuerdanbieke KO plus 150 right now. I just don't understand why there's such a big disparity. I guess because he's like a big favorite on the money line, which I also don't agree with. So, inherently, I don't agree with both the money line and the KO prop. But Steve Garcia is going to go out there and try and take this guy's head off. I did a show with the All-Star Picks guy. They have an app, All-Star Picks. I don't know if you know it, but I did a show with Jay Speck and JHK a few days ago, and he did an interview with Steve Garcia. And it was such a funny interview because Steve Garcia, he started off the interview by going, yeah, I'm going to go out there and just throw Hail Marys. Like, I'm going to knock this guy's head off. And then in the middle of the interview, he was like, this time around, I want to be like real methodical. I want to take it slow and just be methodical in there. And then at the end of the interview, he finished off by saying like, look, man, I'm just going to bring violence. I'm bringing violence this weekend. So you look at it and you're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But I think what he said 2 out of 3 times is the truth, right? Not what he said when he said he's going to be methodical. I think this guy's going to go out like he always does and just try and throw Hail Marys. And like, if he does that, he's always going to be live for a KO. I think the guy hits pretty hard. He's massive as well. He's a 6-foot featherweight, which is very big for featherweight. He's got like a 4-5, it's like a 3 or 4 inch reach advantage. So yeah, man, I'm going to go with Steve Garcia via TKO in that one at plus 480.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's one guy that Jackson Wink can't make boring, right? Steve, at least so far with Steve Garcia. So
yeah,
keep going.
Well, let's shout out the chat quickly. It's quite late around the world, as you can see. My man Anthony saying we're live right now, 1:42 a.m. here. So I don't know where that is, but maybe that's like in New York or something. I know them guys over there are quite like late.
Yeah, East Coast time, yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, it might be. Where are you? I didn't ask that before.
I'm in Vegas, so I'm on
okay.
the West Coast, so it's like 10 right here.
Yeah, you was at the PFL tonight. I forgot. Yeah, so it's quite late. So everybody rocking with us live. Shout out to you guys. MMA Prodigy here. First Fight's Not Black. Clay Thompson. PA brother, same time zone. Yeah, Chinny Brit saying he tailed my picks tonight and absolutely crushed. Yeah, man, we got crushed tonight. It was my worst event of the year. But bravo, we're up after tonight, which was a 10-unit loss. We're up 40 units this year, man. So relax, brother. You know what I'm saying? This is a long-term game. I'm up 350 units over the last 4 years, man. So just relax, take a deep breath, control your emotions, and we're going to get it back on the UFC tomorrow. And if not, over the long term, man. It's funny. We always get these comments. You know how it goes, MMA prediction guru, innit? One event and everyone goes crazy.
Yeah, there's always tomorrow, man. Tomorrow you're gonna hit like 10 units, and you're not gonna have that guy coming back and saying like, "Oh, you did a great job," either. So you kind of
yeah, no. It's always the negativity is always louder, right? But
yeah.
Anyway, we'll move on to the next fight here. Trey Ogden versus Ignacio Bahamondes. This is a good fight, man. I'm actually quite high on Ignacio Bahamondes. Even in that first fight he took in his debut against John McDessie, he obviously got beat in that fight and actually bet on John McDessie in that fight, right? But the reason I bet on John McDessie is because I thought he was going to win cleanly. And he did win kind of cleanly, but I mean, that was a war, man. And Bahamondes really impressed me in that fight. So after that fight, I'm like, oh, I actually rate this guy a lot more than I did, pre-UFC. And I actually think he's improved. His takedown defense has improved, in my opinion. And I just feel like he's coming into his own, like he's picking his shots a little bit better. And I think he's going to dominate in this fight, man. I know Trey Ogden's a popular underdog. He is a big price, so I guess I understand it in a way. He's apparently a jiu-jitsu black belt. I haven't really seen him be like super slick on the ground and stuff. But I mean, from what I hear, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. And if he does get takedowns, maybe he can just ride out top control. But I don't think he's going to be able to get consistent takedowns, I should say, on Bahamondes. And if he doesn't do that, like Bahamondes is going to tee off on him, man. Bahamondes has every strike in the book. He has good hands, but he has really, really good kicks, for spinning back kicks. I know everybody remembers what he did to Roosevelt Roberts. Like 5 seconds left in the fight, and he wouldn't even let the guy go to decision, man. He hit him with a spinning wheel kick. So he's going to be fighting to the end of the fight. And in this fight, I actually think he finds a finish, and so I've been looking at it, and I'm seeing the Bahamondes KO is like plus 150, plus 200. But then his submission is plus 600, plus 700. So, man, I'm going to have to give out the submission, in this for this stream. Like, look, if you want to play it safe, just go with the under 2.5 rounds. But, man, I like to keep it a bit fun and give you plus 700s, rather than the under 2.5 in this one anyway. I think Bahamondes can get a club and sub here. I don't expect him to take him down and, take his back and dominate. But I have seen him be quite heavy on top. I have seen him float his hips well to certain positions. Maybe when he's on bottom, he's not the best, but on top, he's decent. And I also think he can hit a club and sub, as I've said. And even if not a club and sub, I feel like he's going to be hitting Trey Ogden with so many shots, as I spoke about the volume. When it comes to second and third round, I think he's going to be tired, Trey Ogden, man. I really do. And I, he just cut weight 2 weeks ago, Trey Ogden. Now he has to cut weight again. He has to catch weight, but it's only £5 difference. He still has to cut weight. Doesn't walk around at 160. So he is cutting weight twice in a row. And I just think he's going to be tired in that second and third round, man. I think Bahamondes is going to hit him with a lot of shots. And you know what happens when we've got someone who wants to wrestle and they're tired? They shoot lazy takedowns and they put their head in chokes. And we already know, 6'3" lightweight. Most of the time, they got decent front chokes because they got those long arms. They can put them around the neck. And that's what I think is going to happen here, man. I feel like Bahamondes is going to get a submission. Look, maybe he wasn't get a submission, but I think Bahamondes submission plus 700 holds a lot of value. So, yeah, man, I'm going to go with that prop bet. What do you think about this fight prediction?
Yeah, I like that breakdown because I actually have a bet on Bahamondes by submission at plus 600. Made a few days ago. So, yeah, man, I hopefully we're right on this one. And I kind of got the similar breakdown to you with Trey Ogden. I mean, one thing also that I heard today Laura Sanko say was she was saying that, I don't know if she was, I could be wrong, and she could have been talking about his last fight, but she was saying, he had a rough weight cut last time. So if that was like only 2 weeks ago, maybe that's why this is at 160. That could be potentially a reason why. And another thing about Bahamondes, and you're talking about his first fight with Mac Desi, he missed weight for that fight, if you don't remember, and he looked horrible on the scale. And then he was getting rocked with like jabs, with those check hooks. Like he was getting like real wobbly. So I think it could have been potentially also him having a real bad weight cut too that led to, him getting hit and getting hurt so much and things like that. So now that it's at 160, I think that even benefits Ignacio even more too. So, but yeah, when you're looking at the fight and you look at what Trey Ogden likes to do, I don't know if he has a good double. So, I mean, if Bahamondes is like super sloppy or something or uncharacteristic, I mean, like you said, he could maybe take him down and hold him down. But Ogden on the feet, most of the time, it's like he's low volume and he likes to work that jab like on the counter. And I don't see how he's going to be able to counter like a longer, faster guy that likes to throw kicks. Like you saw him even against Jordan Levitt, like he wasn't matching the kick volume of Jordan Levitt. Like Jordan was beating him on the feet on the outside with kicks. And I think Ignacio is way superior of a kicking game than Levitt, and he's much bigger and longer too. And like you said about Ogden, why I also like the submission prop. I mean, if you look at 3 of his losses, there are submissions, and he lost to a real tall guy that used to be in the UFC, Thomas Gifford, twice by guillotine, where Gifford was pressuring him, where he kind of like I don't know if he rocked him. I can't remember if he rocked him in both fights. He could have, but he was just pressuring him. He got him uncomfortable, and Ogden shot in and got guillotined twice against the same guy. So I think, you're getting another long guy. I think, obviously, what's Gifford is a little bit better because I saw he had like 6 or 7 guillotines, so that was kind of his thing or whatever. But Bahamondes got a front choke in his last fight against Zhu Rong. So his grappling does look to be improving, like you said. He's over there training with GM3 with Bilal at Valley Flow. So obviously those guys are beasts on the ground. And yeah, I agree. So I hopefully Ignacio gets that plus 600 for us through,
Yeah, that'll be lovely, man. If he does that, I'll definitely be fully on the train, And I got a question because I actually think, as I said, I bet on John Desi to beat Bahamondes as an underdog in that spot. But I actually believe that it was because it was his UFC debut. And then, like you mentioned, because he missed weight as well. You know, I feel like if that wasn't his UFC debut, if he didn't miss weight, like if they fought today, or even if they fought the same year, like I think like 2 years ago it was, or maybe 3 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago. If they fought again at that time, but let's say Ignacio had a good weight cut and it wasn't his debut, I think Bahamondes would win that fight. I don't know what your opinion is on that one.
Yeah, I think he easily because that fight was still, like you said, it was still super competitive. Where
Yeah,
Ignacio was landing a lot, throwing a lot of volume, and Makdessi. I mean, the guy, like, a lot of people underrate him because he didn't fight that often and he got knocked out and broke his jaw a couple times. But that guy's a badass striker too, you know. So like
yeah,
he's not an easy opponent, especially for your debut. So yeah, I mean, if they fought now, I definitely would favor Bahamondes. I don't know the last time Makdessi even fought, but yeah,
yeah,
especially if they went back and fought and everything was perfect. Because I mean, if he didn't get rocked and wobbled, he probably would have won. You know, because he landed the more volume and all that. So yeah, I definitely agree,
yeah.
and I think Bahamondes is getting better. Like you said, like his last fight against Zhu Rong, he got taken down, but he swept him, and then he ended up submitting him. So that definitely shows some progression.
Yeah, definitely, man. And you know, for anybody watching out there as well, like you have to be able to go back and be honest about your bets. You know, I don't even think that was a great bet, even though I bet John McDessie as an underdog. You know, so if you can do that, go back and look at your bets and be honest, even in winning bets, and say that they're losers. That's only going to help you moving forward. You know, so you don't overrate or underrate any specific fighter. But with that being said, we'll move on. We have a fight that I'm not too excited for. Cynthia Calvillo versus Lupita Godinez here. I'll let you kick this one off. Do you think Cynthia's washed? Because I got a little bit of an inclination that she is. It might be hard to find a prop bet on this one, but what do you think of this one, Guru?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, this fight to me, it's hard to get a read on, but I will say, like, money line, I do feel like potentially she could be washed, and that's why I didn't bet on Cynthia because I bet her a couple times. Like, I bet her against Nina Nunez and Andrea Lee, and she just like pissed me off with her performances. You know, like I felt like, especially the Andrea Lee fight, she didn't look good at all. But this fight, I mean, I don't get why she'd be such a big underdog personally. I mean, she's coming back down to 115 where she had to have gotten in better shape. I mean, she made the weight. The last time she was at 115, I think she missed weight by like 5 pounds. And she's 6-1 or 6-1-1 with the one draw against Marina at 115. And Lupi's like 3-3 in the UFC. It's not like she kind of like set the world on fire. But, you know, where they are in their careers, I get why Lupi would be like a favorite. But I think if you're betting it, I mean, I would bet on Calvillo and maybe like if I was trying to find a prop, which I'm never not going to play Calvillo or the prop, but maybe like Calvillo by submission. But I don't know. I mean, Godinez I think is probably slightly better on the feet, but I don't think it's a big difference. Like I think people overrate Godinez's striking. It's a lot of like she has some power in her hands, but I think she only has one knockout win, and she only throws like 1-2 strikes at a time. It's all boxing, so I feel like Calvillo, she's longer. She could switch stances. She's probably a little bit faster. She throws different type of strikes. I think the striking could be close. And you look at Godinez, like, is she going to take Cynthia Calvillo down and hold her down? Like, I don't think anyone, if you look at Calvillo's career, no one's been able to take her down and hold her down. Even like Carla Esparza and these girls, it's all been, they beat her on the feet. So I think it's going to be like a maybe a split decision type of fight where Godinez or Calvillo can win. But yeah, I don't really have much interest in the fight either, to be honest.
Yeah, so my thoughts on the fight are that I think Cynthia's washed, right? I mean, look, she's been beat 4 times in a row, right? The Caitlin Chikagan one, we can let that pass. That was a long time ago as well. She wasn't washed at that point, but Chikagan's a hard fight for anybody, you know what I mean? I think Chikagan would handedly beat Lupita Godinez. And then obviously she got knocked out in the first round by Jessica Andrade. And we don't hold too much against her for that loss because, as we know, Jessica Andrade hits like an absolute truck. You know, it's no shame being knocked out by her. But then it's the next 2 fights that really kind of turn me off Cynthia Calvillo, you know, because she fights Andrea Lee. I'm pretty sure I bet her in that fight as well. And she just gets completely dominated, you know, like she gets smashed to pieces. I mean, it wasn't even that bad like early, but she was just like reacting to lots of different shots. She looked like she didn't want to be in there. Her grappling looked bad. You know, like I've never really seen that before. Usually her wrestling is on point whenever she goes with it, but it didn't even look good. Like she was shooting from bad angles. She wasn't setting up her shots. She just looked like she didn't want to be in there. And she really proved she didn't want to be in there when she didn't get up for the third round. So she said no mass, Rigondo style. She did not get up from her stool at the end of the second. So that was a bad look in my opinion. I've never seen Cynthia quit like that before. This girl was like having wars with Carla Esparza, And when I say war, I just mean like close positions for both fighters. She wasn't giving up at all. And then she gave up in that fight. And then she comes back against Nina Nunes. And man, she looked bad in that fight, man. She lost a split to Nina Nunes, who's just had a baby. Like, she's not a good fighter anymore. At one point in time, Nunes was quite good. She had great takedown defense. She was a decent striker. But at this point in time, she's not good, man. And she was getting hurt by leg kicks, like repeatedly, constantly, man. I mean, I thought at one point, if Nunes hits like 5 or 6 more leg kicks, we might see the first ever women's leg kick TKO in the octagon, But obviously didn't happen. But it just showed me that Cynthia's washed. And so for that reason, I actually like the under 2.5 rounds a little bit here. I mean, it's plus 250. It's a massive, massive price for an under. Anytime you can get an under at plus 250, it's usually like a women's flyweight fight, women's strawweight fight, right? And I know Lupi's actually never, ever got a TKO before. So I don't really I'm not trying to, make it a hot take on purpose, but I actually do think Lupi can maybe get a TKO in this one. I think she can rock her on the feet. I think she hits really hard. It's just, at the end of the day, she's a strawweight, and you don't really see knockouts or knockdowns in the strawweight division. But I do think she's probably one of the hardest hitters in the strawweight division. I mean, there's not many of them, right? There's only about 3 or 4, but she's up there, I would say, right? And the thing about Lupi is she just doesn't have a lot of volume. Like, after she hits you, I remember she dropped Angela Hill in the first round and didn't really go for it after that. She kind of just let the fight slip away from her. But in terms of just raw punch power, I think it's not bad, for a strawweight. And so in this fight, I do think she can rock Cynthia. And if Cynthia's done, if she is washed like I believe she is, then, I mean, finishes just happen to wash people. You know what I mean? Like, even if you don't think it's going to happen, they just happen. And then if she isn't washed, like you mentioned, Cynthia sub, like, she can sub anyone on her day. And I think Lupida's a bit of a flake, man. I mean, Carolina lost, upper weight class, whatever. Jessica Penney lost. She had her back multiple times in that fight. And Angela Hill lost when the fight was there for her. She shot 2 takedowns when she should have been shooting 15. I mean, I think she's a bit of a flake. So I could see a finish here. I mean, I'm not super passionate, but plus 250 was good enough for me to give it out on this show.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're gonna play this fight like over under, you got to play the finish, because I think, like you said, even though Godinez doesn't have power, she could finish, and I think she's a wrestler too, man. So I do think there is potential Cynthia could get the sub. But real quick, I mean, do you think that Cynthia going to 115, that doesn't do anything for you, like in terms of, you think she could have a better performance or no?
Not really. I know she's only lost 1 fight at this weight class, but I mean, that doesn't mean anything if you're washed. To be honest, if I think you're washed and then you're moving down in weight class, it's even worse. We know that people can move up and down, but when people move down, when they're trying to like find themselves, you see, kind of reminds me of Dan Hooker a little bit, or some of these other fighters where they're on the end, they're on a decline, and then they move down because they're trying to find themselves, but they end up just hurting their bodies a little bit more. Cynthia's getting old. She's not young anymore. And I actually, I live in New Zealand, so like I sleep through the weigh-ins. I always wake up to see the weigh-ins. But I mean, I haven't actually looked at the weigh-ins yet because I woke up and straight away I watched the PFL. How did Cynthia look on the scales? Did she look weathered or did she look good?
I didn't think she looked she looked normal. Like, she didn't look like she was that drained or anything. And she made the weight, so I don't know. I mean, I don't think she's really was ever that big of a 115er either. I feel like I don't know why she was missing weight like that. Like when she missed it against Marina Rodriguez. Like, because do you think she was really that big? Like, I feel like at 125 she was like way. Like you were talking about that Andrea Lee fight. I watched. She looked so small compared to Andrea Lee. Looked huge compared to Calvillo. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know why, but yeah, I don't think she looked that bad on the scales.
I mean, she only missed 120. She only missed 115 once, I think. So like,
no, she missed too. She missed against Joanne Calderwood too. So she missed. Okay. But the Calderwood one, they did go to like Scotland or something. So that's how harder.
Yeah, but no, I don't. Like, to answer your question, I don't think she looked big, in the upper weight class. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes, man. Next fight is Carl Williams versus Chase Sherman, and this is the fight I'm the least interested in on the entire card. So with that being said, I'll let you take this one away, man. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. They always got to put on like a couple of these like super shit heavyweight fights for some
Yeah.
reason on every card. At least this one's not on the main card like it usually is. Usually it'd be like where Raw fought versus Yanez is, and Yanez would be on the prelims or something crazy.
They
But
make it the main event, man. They make it the main event. It's
yeah,
crazy.
what is the main event? The Charlotte one? It's like Rosas against who's he fighting?
Yeah.
Rosas against somebody.
Almeida.
Yeah,
Almeida, yeah.
at least
Um,
Almeida's. It'll be quick, probably at least.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like this, but this fight, like Carl Williams, he's coming in on short notice. But he just fought like what, like 3 or 4 weeks ago against
Yeah.
Bresky, and I know I've seen quite a few people like picking Chase Sherman and going with Chase Sherman, but I just can't do it, man. I mean, the guy's what, four wins, 10 losses in the UFC, and Carl Williams. I mean, he does look like he's not that great, like he's kind of green at this point. But one thing you got to give him, I think, the guy's super athletic. He's fast, and he has good wrestling. So I feel like if he could take Chase Sherman down 2 or 3 times, I think Chase Sherman's gas tank is really going to go down. And even if Williams gets tired, I don't see Chase Sherman coming back and getting some come from behind knockouts. So maybe Carl Williams by decision as a prop. I don't even know what the money line is on, or the line is on that, because I'm not going to bet this fight at all. But yeah, I mean, that would probably be the pick. I would say Carl Williams by decision. I don't really see Carl Williams having submission threat or really big ground and pound, and for him to knock him out on the feet, I don't think it's that likely. Chase Sherman's pretty tough, if anything, but yeah, I would say Carl Williams by decision.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo the point. I'm not going to speak too long. Carl Williams' decision. I was actually thinking of playing it just because I know it's like a fight where I like you kind of feel dirty betting on this fight because you don't want to ever have anything to do with it. But I think it's quite easy to read. You know what I mean? Like I do feel like Carl Williams is easily going to get the grappling going. I don't really see a world in which Chase Sherman is like defending takedown after takedown. Like I just don't see that happening. And then I also don't see a world where Chase Sherman gets taken down, and he gets back to his feet like 5 or 6 times, and he gets the comeback win. Like I just can't imagine it in my head. He's not that type of guy. After round 1, if the fight's not going his way, Chase Sherman quits, man. We've seen it in every fight. And then he comes out like it looks like he's completely quit in the round, in between rounds, and then he comes out and he does okay, but he just doesn't really get the win, man. I mean, I know he got that 3rd round over Vandeira, but Vandeira's like, he's on the same level as Chase. They're both quite bottom of the barrel. In this fight, I see Carl Williams getting a takedown a lot. I'm just worried about playing Carl Williams' decision just because I feel like Chase Sherman, after a round or 2, starts to quit, starts to not believe in himself. And I mean, Williams had a chance to get Bresky out of there in the last fight. Like that fight was kind of sweaty if you bet a decision prop, So yeah. I'm a little bit worried about it. I probably won't play it because I've already got a lot of action. But anyway, I'm going to give that one out. Carl Williams' decision. It's the first one we're giving out together. But I mean, I can't really see the fight going too many other ways. And we got Gerald Meerschaert, the next fight. Gerald Meerschaert versus Joseph Pifer. GM3, man, I think GM3 is being a bit disrespected in this one. I can't lie. I know the guy sometimes goes out there and just looks terrible, no durability, gets knocked out 1 punch by Chimaev. And, you can say what you want. Yeah, it was Chimaev, but I mean, getting 1 punched in general it's not really a good look, And then he got knocked out the same way against Ian Heinisch. So it's not like, Chimaev's this beast, that's the only reason it happened. Just happens to Gerald sometimes, he gets knocked out. Even you look at the Stoltzfus fight, I think he didn't look good in that fight at all, even though he won the fight. And Gerald is always an underdog because he looks slow. He doesn't look very good on the feet. He always gets beat up, but he comes back to win a lot, man. And what I keep thinking about this fight is like, if he gets beat in this fight, it's probably his worst loss in the UFC, I mean, yeah, you can, I think Eric Anders is definitely a better fighter than Joseph Pifer at this point in time. Like Pifer may go on to be better than him, but I wouldn't say like from what we know now that he is. And then, I mean, you look at Gerald's record, there's not many fighters that he's lost to. Like he doesn't really have a bad loss in the UFC. I'd say his worst loss is Ian Heinisch. Every other time he's lost has been against like good guys. And he's beaten a lot of guys, man. He beat Bruno Silva. I do think kind of that was more Bruno Silva's fault. But, I mean, he beat Bruno Silva easily. Mahmoud Muradov, and these are all recent wins as well. So the guy's a good fighter, man. Like the guy's very underwhelming. He doesn't look great, but he's super tricky, man. I mean, the guy is one of the best finishers in the entire UFC. And you wouldn't think that, you kind of want to laugh at someone saying that, but facts are facts, man. The guy has a 94% finishing rate. The guy can finish you from anywhere, I mean, at least with the submission. So I feel like if Pifer don't get him out there, I think Pifer's going to gas, man. I saw that Jonathan Patty fight, and that was a bad look. I mean, Pifer shot about 15 takedowns, and he gassed out. Of course, you would gassed out from that, but if he gasses out the same way he did in that fight, he's getting subbed the same way he did in that fight. So for me, man, I like Gerald Meerschaert. I want to be like, I want to be fun and give Gerald Meerschaert sub in round 3 at like plus 1600. But I'm just gonna take it easy and just give Gerald Meerschaert submission because that's still good value in my opinion. Gerald Meerschaert submission plus 300. I'll go with that one. What do you think, Guru?
Yeah, man, this is another one where I'm excited to hear breakdown because we're on the same page. I'm also on GM3 in this one, and I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, you look at GM3, and one thing about the knockouts where I do think that obviously Pifer could catch him, but you got those 2 fights that he fought Ian Heinisch, he got knocked out, and obviously that's not a great look. But then he came back, he fought Chimaev like 3 months later, so he came back super fast. He got KO'd again. He has like 18 UFC fights. He only got KO'd those 2 times, and then Thiago Santos knocked him out. I mean, obviously, especially when GM3 fought him, he could have knocked out almost anyone, especially at 185 too. And like you said, I mean, GM3, he has the most submissions ever in middleweight history for the UFC, which is kind of crazy to say. It's almost like a Paul Craig type of thing, right? Where it's like you would never think that guy would be at the top. Yeah. But yeah, he has the most submission wins in the history of UFC at middleweight. I think he has 9 submissions. And like you said, I mean, Jonathan Patty submitted him. I mean, if Patty's, getting his arm around your neck and submitting you, if GM3 gets his arm anywhere around your neck, I think it's going to be probably over, But you look at Pifer, like, he has gotten these knockout wins, but Ozzy Diaz, I mean, that guy had not really fought anyone, And then this guy, the fight they gave him in the UFC was a setup fight against Alan Amadovsky. I mean, I don't think he really learned much. He caught that guy, knocked him out, and I don't see Joseph Pifer being some elite kickboxing striker where he's like going to be catching GM3 with these precision shots. Like GM3 is durable when he could see the shots come in, and he's not a bad striker either. I feel like his striking is underrated. I think he could compete on the feet after the first round, especially with Pifer, with the southpaw, with the jab, with those body kicks. I think the body kicks are actually going to be pretty open for GM3 in this fight. And then, man, I mean, I don't necessarily know if GM3 is going to be able to take him down, especially early. But Joseph Pifer is a wrestler, like you said, and he trains with Sean Brady and all those guys. And you saw, like, he took down Ozzy Diaz. He got his back taken in that fight. We've seen him obviously get submitted with the guillotine. So I feel like when he gets tired and GM3 is, kicking him to the body, jabbing him, backing him up, we could see him shoot a takedown or do something that's ill-advised. He's also really inexperienced. I mean, GM3 has more UFC fights, like 5-6 more UFC fights than Joseph Pifer even has total fights in his entire career. I mean, this guy has 50 fights. That's a lot of fights. And he's, like you said, fought guys and beaten guys, I feel like, that are already better than Joseph Pifer. Like, I feel like Makhmud Muradov is better than Joseph Pifer and some of these other guys that GM3 has already beaten in his career. So, yeah, I mean, you gave the submission, so I'll just say GM3 inside the distance. It's plus 300. I mean, maybe he could TKO him. I don't see it obviously as likely as him getting a sub, but there could be, he could body kick him or something. But, yeah, I feel like GM3 is the side in this fight, even on the money line, too. I don't see how you could get yourself to bet Pifer over minus 200. I mean, the guy's not beating anyone in the top 50, even maybe top 75. I don't know. I mean, I can't think of anyone that he's beaten of note. And GM3, I mean, the guy's only loses really to top 15 fighters, I guess the couple fights where it's like you could maybe say Pifer could win is the Jotko fight and the other fight you're talking about, Dustin Stolfus. Because if he comes in like that and it's just like he's so nonchalant or just lacks that urgency on the ground and just lets Pifer hold him down, maybe Pifer could, sneak out of there with a decision. And obviously could KO him, but I don't really see that being that likely. I know a lot of people are thinking he's going to knock out GM3, but if GM3 gets KO'd by Pifer, I think that's a bad look. And he's went over to Sanford full time now, man. So I think that's a big move. I don't know that many big guys or really many guys that are at Roufusport training anymore. Like even like Pettis, I don't think he's there. And he's obviously not training with like Rafion Stotts and Sergio Pettis and those guys. So it's like, I think Sanford, there's a lot of 70s and 85 pounders over there. So he's going to be probably even sharper coming in, and hopefully he won't have those bad performances like you were talking about as often.
Yeah.
And this is like his last kind of run in the UFC. I mean, if he loses this fight, it's kind of, I don't think he'll ever get a title shot or anything like that, but he could potentially get, one or two big fights if he can win this one and make a lot of money. So, yeah, man, I think he has a lot of motivation, and I think he has the experience and the skill set to get it done. So, definitely siding with GM3.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to hear that. Hopefully we're right. Everyone's been messaging me this week and, comment on my YouTube and stuff and saying like, oh, you're crazy for betting against Joe Pifer. Dana White loves Joe Pifer. They're putting him in this spot. And people really misunderstand this thing where the UFC wants so-and-so to get a win. So what I always say to people is like, yes, the UFC put people in a position to get a win, but I don't really care about that. I watch tape and I make a decision. In my opinion, I'm better than the UFC at studying fights, at breaking down fights, at capping fights. I'm better than the UFC. You know what I mean? I don't think the UFC knows more than me when it comes to this fighter is going to beat this fighter, because how many times have we seen it where they put their golden boy into a spot and they get beat up, like they've done it with every single golden boy ever. They did it with Muradov. They tried to set Muradov up with GM3 and look what happened there.
Bruno Silva. I mean, GM3, that's like a specific guy you could even point at and say, oh, he's done this to the UFC multiple times where they wanted guys to beat him and he beat them. So obviously, yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's like that's like an overused narrative. Maybe sometimes it's warranted. Like that first fight, obviously, like Joseph Pifer versus Alan Amadovsky.
Yeah.
I mean, the UFC wants him to win, and it's like he was going to win that fight 9.5 out of 10 times. But this is a way
know that, right?
Fight. Yeah, exactly.
You know that by looking at tape, and that it's not because the UFC want it to happen. Yeah. It's because I looked at tape and I saw Amadovsky was a terrible fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, my point is, I don't really care about what the UFC want. Obviously, I understand the game. I use it a little bit, but man, a lot of times you can actually use that against you, because sometimes the UFC are underrate other guys on the other side, and I think that's what they're doing to someone later in the card, and we'll speak about that. But yeah, man, we're both on the GM3 side. Hopefully that works out for us. And at the next fight, we got Michelle Waterson-Gomez and Luana Pinheiro. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about this one, man. Running theme of the card, I kind of think Waterson is washed at this point. I do like Karate Hottie. I think she's a good role model for people, for women, for people in general. I really, really respect the Karate Hottie. I saw that documentary about her like 5 years ago. And I remember the girl I was with at the time, we watched it and she really loved her. And ever since then, I've been like, yeah, this chick's a good role model, man. She's like, she's got a child. She's faithful to her husband. She's a good face for the sport, But I mean, that means nothing when you're coming in against these young bucks trying to take your head off. And that's exactly what Luana Pinheiro is going to do, man, because the chick hits like a truck, which you don't really say for strawweight. And it's not that she hits like a truck, really, like one punch power. It's just because she blitzes in and she throws really, really fast. And she throws like 5 strikes at once. And if one of them catches you, you're probably not going to see it. And we already know that if one hits you that you don't see, you kind of get, that's the one that rocks you. So I think Pinheiro is, I think Pinheiro's the rightful favorite for sure in this spot. I guess Karate Hottie can win, but it's like this would probably be a worse loss. You know what I mean? But it's also like, I think she's washed. For her to win, it has to be some close split decision type fight. Like, she's got to time the takedowns at the perfect time. She's got to get the back. And she might get the back, but other than that, I mean, she's literally got no finishing upside at all. I mean, like, I would literally say the finishing upside is like 80-20 on the Pinheiro side. I definitely think Pinheiro can get a finish in this fight. I know Waterson's very, very tough, but like the Calvillo thing, when someone's washed, I think the finishes just happen. I will say that I don't think she's as washed as Calvillo. I'm basically very confident that Calvillo's washed. I'm not super confident Waterson is, but I'm pretty sure she is. Like, I think she's on the downslide. And we'll see that, this weekend. But for the prop bet anyway, I'm going to say, I'm going to go with the under as well, man. I'm going to go with the under because, Pinheiro, I always say that Pinheiro's not a gasser, because I know everyone's going to be saying this weekend, Pinheiro's such a gasser and stuff. But if you're a gasser, you don't win 30-27 on 2 judges' scorecards against Sam Page. Sam Page is the definition of cardio and durability. That girl will make you gas if you're a gasser. So she was beating her in round 3. You know, she won round 3 on 2 judges' scorecards. So I think this Pinheiro Gassa narrative is overblown. But I will say that she's not Michael Phelps, right? She's not Mo Farah. She does slow down for sure. If she slows down, I do think Waterson can get the back, submissions there. But more than likely, I think Pinheiro, Pinheiro is going to be the one finishing if anyone's finishing. And I just like the number, man. Plus 250. I'm going to give it out here. I'm not confident at all. I've actually not even played it myself. But I'm going to give it out here. Under 2.5 plus 250. What do you think, Guru?
Yeah, like you said, I'm not too interested in this fight. I actually am on the other side, though. I'm gonna go with Waterson. Just because I don't like Luana Pinheiro. I've watched a few of her fights, and like I feel like her striking, like you said, she is athletic. Like when she closes distance and she does hit those flurries, it's pretty impressive, and she's fast and has some power. But on the outside, to me, she does nothing. I mean, she just stands on the outside. And Michelle Waterson, it's a different matchup than Sam Hughes. Like Sam Hughes also doesn't have any striking on the outside where she doesn't throw any kicks and things like that. At least Michelle Waterson is going to be active, I feel like, or more active than any opponent, even if she's missing shots. Like even if she's throwing shots on the outside like Caitlin Chukagian and missing by 5 feet, she's still going to be throwing way more than I feel like other girls that Pinheiro fought. And like you watch that Randa Marcos fight, that was super sketchy fight to me.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what happened with that one. It seemed like she kind of quit, wanted out of that fight, and I thought she was gassing in that fight. Not as bad as like in the Sam Hughes one, but that one, like it was her UFC debut, so you got to give her some slack on that. But she just had that horrible game plan where she freaking judo threw her like 7 times in the first 3 minutes of the fight. It's like if she does that against Michelle Waterson, she'll get tired. Like it has to kind of do, in my opinion. Like I don't think she's a gasser, like you said. Like if she fights within herself, but if she goes out there and it's like she almost finishes Michelle Waterson in the first round or throws her 5 or 6 times, she could definitely get tired. And this is a big step down in competition for Michelle to me. I mean, she just fought Amanda Lemos, who's a beast. I know you're a big fan of Amanda Lemos. I feel like that's like a huge step down. And she won the first round against Lemos too. And I'm kind of nervous with this Jackson Wink thing going on, man. I mean, but we just saw Mo Green fucking win a fight today, which is kind of crazy. But we saw Holly like absolutely dominate John Jones. And Michelle looks huge, man. She put on size. She looks big. She looks in good shape. So I don't know. I'm not like going to come out here and say, oh, Michelle's going to dominate the fight, bet on Michelle by decision, blah, blah, blah. But that's kind of what I would give out. Maybe Michelle by decision, split decision. Like you said, it could be. But it's like I feel like if it gets out of the first round, it becomes like a 50-50 fight, honestly, because Michelle has way more experience. She's good at kind of like weaseling the decisions, like I said, throwing a lot of volume that's like ineffective. Like she beat Angela Hill. A lot of people didn't think she won that fight. And it's like she can kind of do that, especially with someone like Pinheiro, who she's fought nobody. Like she fought Sam Hughes, like you said, who I guess is a decent fighter. But I feel like Michelle, like she's fought like Rose Namajunas, girls that are like some of the best ever. So I feel like it's a big step up, and I'm going to give the chance to Michelle one more time, but it's like, if she loses this fight, I think she's going to retire, so, we'll see. She definitely looks in good shape to me, man. She looked really good on the scale. Like, I feel like that's the best she ever looked in her whole career, so, but I don't know if that necessarily matters,
Yeah, she did look great. For me, I just think she's washed, but I could be wrong. Like I'm not definitely right. And I really like fading these washed fighters. So that's why I feel like Pinheiro could finish her. But if she's not washed, then I mean she's definitely got a chance to win. But I guess we'll find out tomorrow, man. The next fight we have is Chris Curtis versus Kelvin Gastelum. I'll let you kick this one off. Obviously Gastelum, he's another one that might be washed, man. I don't know if he is. I'm leaning more on the side that he's not yet, but I guess he's seen his better days. But what do you think about this one, Guru?
Yeah, shit, man. You should probably fade me on this pick, man. Every time I pick a Chris Curtis, I think I got it. The one of the like when he beat Phil Hawes or something, I picked that one. But I've been getting like all these Chris Curtis fights wrong, man. Like I just can't. I just don't have a good read on the guy. But I don't know. I feel like both these guys like to do the same thing. They both box. They have good like defensive wrestling. I guess you could say Kelvin is the more diverse guy. Like he will throw some kicks like a little bit more than Curtis, and he can wrestle better offensively. But I don't really see him taking down Chris Curtis. Like we saw Jack Hermanson didn't even try to take Chris Curtis down, and we saw when he fought Vieira and some of these other guys, his takedown defense is definitely on point. So I think maybe Gastelum could hold him against the cage a little bit, but I don't really see him taking him down. Even though I know is he with Fight Ready or with Kings for this camp? Do you know if he
I'm,
was actually
I'm,
at Fight Ready? If he was
I'm
at
not
Fight Ready, I
sure.
mean, his wrestling will be on point if he was at Fight Ready for sure. But I still feel like it'll probably be a stand up fight, and I don't really know, man. Like it's like Kelvin, like you said, he's lost 4 or 5 fights, looks pretty washed, and I just think I'm gonna still go with Kelvin though. I feel like I should pick Curtis because I always fade him, and he ends up winning. But for a prop, I don't even have a prop for this fight, man. I don't know. I mean, I feel I'm gonna pick Kelvin. I'll say he wins by decision, and just being a little more diverse, like maybe mixing in a couple kicks and maybe some clinch control, and it'll be like a close, low volume type of fight. I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kelvin's the side. I think Kelvin wins. Kelvin opened as an underdog and now he's a favorite. I do agree with that line movement. Curtis, at the end of the day, he's very low volume, and he basically just waits to counterbox, and I don't really think Kelvin's going to be there for him to do that for the 15 minutes. I mean, Kelvin's quite good at bouncing in and out of range, which I like. I know that some of the fighters who Chris Curtis have fought are good at doing that, and he was able to counter, but man, if he doesn't land a bomb, if he doesn't land like a knockdown or something, I think he's just going to get out volumed, man. It's kind of what happened in the Jack Hermansson fight. He didn't land a bomb and he got out volumed. Even in the Joaquin Buckley fight, Buckley was like teeing off on him and then obviously he landed a bomb. I don't think Buckley has a great chin in general. But yeah, man, I do feel like Kelvin Gastelum is probably the side here. I think he's going to get a decision win. So I'm going to give out Kelvin Gastelum via decision, because I can't really see him finishing Chris Curtis, and I can't see anyone finishing anyone. I mean, fight goes to decision is minus 200, minus 190 on some books, and I actually think that's a good bet. I do. I really don't see anyone finishing anybody. So yeah, I'll go with Kelvin Gastelum via decision at plus 150. But you know what Chris Curtis loves to do? He loves to shit in everybody's apple pie. Every prediction, every MMA predictor's apple pie, because the guy seems to win. I mean, he's won every single fight in the UFC except for one, and people have picked against him on probably every single fight. So, I wouldn't take my breakdown too far, but I'm not gonna lie, man. I am kind of confident on Kelvin here. So we'll see how that plays out. But with that being said, we'll get on to the next fight. And this is one fight which I really like. This is the fight on the entire card that I'm looking forward to the most. I really am, man. Christian Rodriguez versus Raul Rosas Jr. This is an amazing fight. It goes back to what we were saying earlier, and I alluded to this, where people like to say the UFC is setting this guy up. Well, here we go. The UFC is setting Raul Rosas up, yeah? But I think that they set him up with the wrong person here. C-Rod is not to be effed with. C-Rod's a very, very good fighter in general. He's a good all-round fighter. He's got good experience. I know he's fairly similar experience, but he's 25 years old. He's been around the game for a while. And I just feel like, look, I don't know who's going to win the fight. I think it's more of a 50-50 fight, honestly. But I guess I like to make passionate takes. And anybody who's seen my breakdowns this week on different podcasts I've been on or my own podcast, I like to make passionate takes when I think the odds are wrong. Not necessarily when I think someone's going to win. So people will listen to my breakdowns and hear me go in depth on like a plus 300 fighter on how they can win and all this stuff. And then they bet all their money on them and they come to me and they go like, man, you said this guy was going to win. You were so confident on Rodriguez. And it's not really that. Like it's that I'm really confident that the line's wide, but I'm not confident that he's going to win. So it's kind of on this fight, man. I mean, this is a 50-50 fight to me, but I don't understand how one fight is minus 250. I mean, it's kind of silly. Look, I do think Raul Rosas Jr. could be the truth, but we just don't know. I mean, we don't know. Like, you don't know, right? I mean, the guy's gone. He's got everyone out there in round one, right? And apart from that, he went to decision with that Dana White's Contender Series guy. I think that guy's a decent fighter, but he's nothing special. I would pick Christian Rodriguez handily over him. And I mean, Raul Rosas got reversed a couple of times in that fight. Won a 30-27, basically dominated the fight, but he did get reversed. It was a bit of a scrambly fight. Like after round one, he seemed like he kind of lost his flow a little bit. He was kind of doing some low percentage stuff after round one. He got reversed a few times. He got put in a deep guillotine as well. I mean, I know C-Rod has a great guillotine. I just feel like Rosas is going to sell out for the takedowns. Rodriguez is going to know that. I don't think Rodriguez has great takedown defense, but I do think he has good get-up ability. And I also think he has good submission defense. We saw that in a GSP fight. And I also think he has very, very good heart, great cardio. We saw that in a GSP fight. I mean, the guy moved up on short notice against JSP, who's one of the best fighters in that division. Yeah, he's one of the best fighters in that entire division. He's a beast, JSP, man. I'm really high on him. The guy is huge. He's like double the size of Rodriguez. He's a massive featherweight. And Rodriguez moved up and fought him as a normal size bantamweight. And I mean, look, he almost took the third round. He was piecing him up on the feet, and he put him in some deep guillotine. So I feel like he can reverse position on Rosas here. And look, I'm just breaking the whole fight down. But basically, I think this fight is a 50-50 fight. And to get to the actual prop bet, which is what I'm giving out, is I'm gonna swing for the fences here. I'm gonna give Christian Rodriguez via submission at plus 1100. You know, if you want to play it safe, I would go fight ends by submission. I don't know what that is because obviously Rosas is definitely live for the sub, but I'm just going to go C-Rod submission plus 1100, man. What do you think, bro? Do you think I'm tripping? Do you think I'm tripping giving C-Rod this chance to win? Or do you think Rosas is deserved favorite and he is the truth?
I'm actually I lean more towards Rosas in this one, man. Just watching Rodriguez fight and watching Rosas Jr. fight, I feel like he's a good matchup for Rosas Jr., man, because he gives his back all the time. Like, he's always giving his back every single time when he tries to get up. And I know you talked about the JSP fight, but JSP, like, his rear naked choke in that fight looked horrible. Like, he wasn't setting it up at all. He was losing position when he got to the back on multiple occasions. Like, I feel like if Rosas gets to that position, he's going to be way, way better, way more advanced than JSP. I'm not saying he's a better fighter than JSP, like if they matched up, but just in that one position, like the back mount, I think Rosas is a lot better, a lot more dangerous. And C-Rod, I feel like he has good striking. Like, he does good at like countering, sticking in the pocket, like pull countering, things like that. But he like slaps his punch. Like, I don't think he has a lot of power. Like, I've seen like he throw a lot of volume, but he's like slapping a lot of his punches. And I feel like for a guy to beat Rosas right now, I don't think it's going to come through like being able to scramble good and, you know, catch submissions and scrambles. I think it's going to be a guy that could either knock him out or keep it on the feet. And I just don't see C-Rod as that guy. I think he's going to give his back up. I think he's going to get taken down. And I see Rosas winning this fight by first round submission, which I think it's probably like, if he wins, that's going to be like the most likely way that he does win. But I could also see him winning by decision too. And I feel like you were talking about the Gutierrez fight. I think it could look similar to that fight, like where if it does go to decision, where C-Rod does have some moments like where you could be like, oh shit, he might give me this guillotine, you know, at some point. But I feel like Rosas, you know, I think he has really, really elite grappling cardio. He's training over there at 10th Planet Vegas, where I know there's a lot of really, really good grapplers in that gym. And I don't necessarily know who C-Rod is training with at Rufus Sport. Like, I guess he's training with Darion Caldwell, which that's probably a good person to have to train with for sure. So I can't really hate on that either. But I feel like I just think this is a good matchup for Rosas Jr. personally. I think he's going to get in his positions where he likes to be. And I get if it gets out of the first round, then I think C-Rod definitely becomes a lot more alive, because we haven't really seen too much of Rosas, you know, going long in fights and things like that. And if he can't get the takedown, or like he could panic, like we haven't really seen his striking either. Like, I can't say like, oh, he's going to be able to compete on the feet with Rodriguez, you know? So I think Rodriguez does have clear advantages when you're looking at like at that money line or like picking him. I think you could, you know, justify it for sure. But I'm leaning towards Rosas Jr., so we'll see what happens. I mean, if he can't win this fight dominantly, then I think they're going to really have to slow down his progression, you know, because I think this is a guy that's good. Like, Rodriguez is skilled everywhere, and he's like a prospect too. But I think it's a good matchup, and if he can't kind of get him out of there or like look dominant, then I think they're going to have to give him like a few easy fights. But yeah, man, I think if he wins this fight, I would be shocked if they gave him like a big fight next. And then that's where it's like, I'd be interested in that for sure. Like, what would you think if they gave him like, I don't know, like, next, like a top 5, top 10 guy at that weight? Like, how do you think he would handle that?
Who, Rosas?
Yeah. Like, cause I think they could do it. Cause like they're giving him this spot, like on the main card, you know, second fight. And another thing, like we didn't even talk about it. I guess after you answer this question, what do you think about Rodriguez missing weight too by 1.5 pounds?
I didn't.
But yeah,
Sorry.
Rosas, like if he fought like a top 10 guy, like what if he fought like I don't. That's probably too much of a step up. But I was gonna say like Rob Font versus Adrian, the loser of that fight. Like you think he would get destroyed?
It's hard to say because we don't know much about him, you know. That's why I don't mind giving a passionate C-Rod take because we just don't know much about him. Like, we know he has an elite back take. We know he can, you know, submit you. And we know, like, he's got good grappling. But we don't know much about him. I don't really know his cardio when he faces adversity. I mean, the guy could just crumble. I don't even know if he's got a good chin. I've never seen him touch. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he's got a good chin. I don't know anything about him. So, like, it's hard for me to say this is going to happen. It's hard for me to say like how a fight's going to go, like an analyst perspective, but it's very easy for me to bet on it because I'm like, well, it's plus 200 and I don't know anything about him. In my style, my betting style, I don't mind taking a shot on that. But like, just like a random guess, like if he fought Adrian Yanez, for example, like, yeah, I think Yanez would like probably finish him. Like from what I know of the two, just because Yanez hits really hard and Yanez has good takedown. He has great takedown. He has good takedown defense for sure. And I don't even know if Rosas is like a great takedown artist, man. He's 18 years old. Like he's not strong. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he has just, like so much power in that. He's quite finessey and he's quite slick. But I don't know, man. I don't believe in him yet. You know, like the guy could be the truth. He looks like a new Khabib, you know, but I don't know, man. I just don't
Like,
believe in him
but
yet.
do you think they will give him like a top 5, top 10 guy if he wins?
You know what? It's one of them ones where they might give him a few gimmies, like just to build his name up a little bit. Sometimes they do that, you know.
Yeah.
But but at the same time, UFC always step you up quite quickly, so they could do it. But yeah, I'm excited to see this fight, man. Overall, I honestly think both of them like are serious prospects for the future. You know,
Yeah.
I rate C-Rod more than most people probably. But to answer your other question, I didn't like him missing weight at all. You know, like even on the scales, he looked like depressed or something. You know what I mean? Maybe because like he hit, you know, he missed weight. So maybe like he was just pissed off at that. You know, he's quite ashamed. So he wasn't like boasting his chest out. But you never really like to see a guy miss weight. Usually, you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't like it, but I can't wait, bro. We'll see. Like whoever wins this fight, I think has really good chance of becoming top 5 in the division. I honestly do, man.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely like, even though I'm saying like I think this is a good matchup for Rosas Jr., I still think C-Rod is good too. Like he's skilled everywhere. I just feel like he has to like clean up the grappling a little bit, man. Even though he's a good like scrambler, I don't think he's gonna be able to like bank on getting out of those positions every fight. You know, it's like eventually you got to be able to stop the takedowns or like kind of, you know, do something. But yeah, we'll see. It's a huge test. Like if he could go out there and beat Rosas Jr. and like defend the takedowns or defend like a back take and some choke attempts, then you could start to say, okay, this guy could probably beat a lot of grapplers. You know?
Yeah, I'm kind of envisioning a Volkanovski-Makachev fight. Like he gets taken down in the first, he gets his back taken, but he doesn't get choked out. He does well, he survives, and then he has moments on the feet. And like I do think it's going to be a close fight, back and forth, like war almost. To kick off the main card, I think it could be a crazy war and like, you know, everyone's screaming after. That's what I'm more envisioning. But you do make good points. You make very good stylistic points, you know, about how he always gives up the back, you know, like Rosas is a very slick back taker. Like stylistically, I definitely understand, you know, picking Rosas. But we'll see, man. So like for the prop bet, what would you give out? Would you give out like Rosas sub or sub 1 or something?
Rosas by sub, I think it was like plus 300. I don't know where it's at now. But yeah, that's kind of what I would go to.
It's actually been bet down a lot. Like I don't know what it opened, but it's plus 160 now market wide.
Oh damn! Yeah, see that's not as good for sure. But I still that would be the play I would give, or maybe like what's the first round for him to win in round 1?
Junior in round 1. That's plus 300.
Yeah, I would still do the 165, I guess, unless you got like 400 or 500. But yeah, that's how.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, that seems to be like I think we're both excited for that one. So
yeah, that's gonna be a good fight. Talk about that one for sure.
Yeah, man. So the next fight is Kevin Holland and Santiago Ponzinibbio. And like I said, I'll kick this one off. Like I said, for most of the card, I think that this fight is washed. This fight happens to be Ponzinibbio this time. And so I think Kevin's going to finish him, So, man, I don't even need to go into this too much. We saw in his last fight, man, he got rocked in 3 rounds by Morono. He got dropped in round 1. He done a stanky leg in round 3. And in round 2, he was getting wobbled, right? And he still came back and won, right? He still came back and knocked him out. And shout out to Ponzinibbio, because I had like a 3-unit bet on him in that fight. So, I was very happy. I didn't watch the fight. I think I was on holiday or something. But I woke up the next morning and I looked and I saw like, oh, Ponzinibbio, won. I was like, oh, nice. I didn't expect it to be like a come from behind win after getting dropped a few times. So I got lucky on that one, and I'm pivoting on this fight. I'm not betting on Santiago this time. I got lucky last time, and I'm not making the same mistake because I didn't make a good bet last time. And like I said at the start of the podcast, you have to go back, look at your bets. Even if they won, Makdessi versus Bahamondes, and able to, be humble enough to say that wasn't a good bet. And I mean, it's not hard for me to say that wasn't a good bet. It's pretty obvious, right? I memean, the guy was getting lit up. And I think Holland kind of finishes the job, finishes what Morono started. Holland hits very hard. He's super long, 6'3", 81-inch reach. He's got a 81 to 73. That's 8-inch reach advantage over Santiago Ponzinibbio. I think, and you know what? He extends that 81 inches as well. He doesn't throw short shots. The guy throws his whole body into it, and I think he gets a knockout here. I think it's probably a brutal knockout as well. Santiago is probably going to go down here. So Holland via TKO is good enough for me. And that's plus 200. So that's the prop bet I'm going to give out, man. Do you agree that Holland's going to knock him out? It seems like to me, it seems like a pretty obvious pick. But I'm interested to see if you disagree in any way.
No, yeah, I agree. I'm going with Holland inside the distance by knockout. So I would give that same play as well. But there is a couple things I'm nervous about. Like Kevin Holland, he just fought. Like, I don't know why he's coming back so fast after that Wonderboy fight. Man, that was in like November. And he broke his hand. He had to have surgery on his hand. So, I mean, if he throws one right hand and breaks his right hand and then he's moving around the whole fight, that would be annoying to lose a bet like that, So hopefully he's 100% and he's like going to go in there and look good. And if he does, then yeah, I think I'm actually on the other side. I bet on Morono, so I was like heartbroken after that fight. Like, fuck, man, because I thought that was a good read. And he was an underdog too.
Great.
Like, pretty big underdog in that fight. But I like Morono. I actually like betting on Morono. Like, so that was kind of like a spot that this one, I'm pretty confident that Kevin Holland will win inside the distance, just like fine. I don't even think his striking is like that good, like technically, man. I feel like it's like he's just like you said, long, and he has those like weird looping shots that he'll throw, and then he could find those like short right hands and in exchanges, and he definitely has power. Like you'll see him land clean on guys, but it's hard for me to trust Holland ever because he never wins any minutes in fights. Like I don't think he's ever won a round in the UFC at welterweight. Like even when he beat like maybe he beat Tim Means in that first round, but that was like a competitive round. He got destroyed by Oliveira in that first round. And then
I bet on him there inside the distance. And I was like, Jesus Christ, Kevin, like, what are you doing, man? And then obviously one shot.
Like, I could see that happening, man, where it's like if you, like, Kevin is getting just, like, beat up by Ponzi, like, he's getting leg kicked and jabbed and stuff, and then it's like he only needs one moment. It's kind of like the main event with Pereira and Izzy. Like, he only needs to be perfect for that 1 second, and he could finish you. And Ponzinibbio has to be, like, perfect for the whole fight because Kevin Holland is super durable, too. Like, even though he's, like, a kind of a clown type of guy, the guy could go in there and take an ass whooping for sure. Like, you could hit him with spinning back kicks to the head like we saw with Wonderboy and all that. And that fight only got stopped, really, because of his hand, I feel like. And he couldn't really defend himself after that. But, yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Ponzi's chin is going. Like we saw, he did get knocked out by the Leech, too, who KO'd him pretty good. And then he's been getting rocked in a lot of these fights. Like the Jeff Neal fight, he got rocked. He got rocked in that fight, like you said, against Morono. He got dropped twice, almost finished. So I do think Holland will finish the job. But it's kind of like whenever you're picking Holland or betting Holland, I think it's definitely risky against anybody. And then also just the fact that he's coming back so quick and the hand injury that he had, that kind of worries me a little bit too. But outside of that, I mean, if you're just looking at it from a pure skill perspective, if they're both at 100%, then I think Holland should get this done.
Yeah, I agree, man. And, going back to what you said, where like Holland loses minutes, like he doesn't win minutes. And that's why you bet on Holland inside the distance in this spot if you're going to play him, because he's minus 250, but inside the distance, it's plus 150. So it's an absolutely massive difference. And he's probably not like if he's getting the fight he wants, like if the fight goes Kevin Holland's way, he's most likely going to KO Ponzinibbio. And if it's not going his way and he doesn't get the KO, he's probably going to get out-volumed, and it's probably going to be a very close split decision, like he had a split decision against Darren Stewart. Or, he has these fights where he should really win, but he doesn't. So, it's similar to the Aspen Ladd, today. Like Aspen Ladd was minus 600, but inside the distance, she was like plus 110 at one point. Anyway, I think it went down, but like you don't bet Aspen Ladd via decision, or you don't bet Aspen Ladd money line because she's an idiot and she has terrible wrestling and she can easily lose fights. But if she is going to win the fight, as we saw in round 3, she's going to dominate. She's going to get on top and she's going to 10-8 her. One judge gave her a 10-8. And it's similar in this fight, it's similar vibes. Like, don't be playing Kevin Holland money line. Play Kevin Holland inside the distance if you want to play it. Now, look, on this occasion, maybe he does drop him 3 times in each round and he wins a decision. But over the long term, you're not going to be getting rich playing these stupid money lines like minus 300 when they're inside the distance is the likely path to victory, So just want to say that there for the viewers that, they like sometimes when I touch on gambling theory. So just wanted to throw that one in there. It's something that I use in my capping, and definitely you can use it too. So yeah, we're both going Kevin Holland inside the distance there. No hot takes. The next fight we got is, well, apparently my internet doesn't want to work. I'm still live with you, right? My internet hasn't stopped.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. All right, good. So Tapology wants to break down, but my internet's still good because I'm live. But anyway, it's Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. This is a good fight. This is probably, my most anticipated fight, Raul Rosas versus Christian Rodriguez. And then this fight and the main event is like my joint second. Like, I'm really, really excited for this fight, even over Burns Masvidal. Yeah, man, I think Adrian Yanez is a good fight. I understand like the Rob Font takes. Like, for me as a gambler, I should be betting Rob Font. Like my style, the way I look at fights, like it's such an easy bet on Rob Font because Rob Font's definitely going to have the volume upside. Like he's going to be landing more volume. Rob Font landed more volume in his last 2 fights, over Marlon Vera and Aldo, even though he lost those fights, like easily lost those. I think he got like 50-45 by Aldo, but like he dominated 80% of the fight. And he got dropped at the end of every round. Like, it was such a crazy thing to see. That was worse than the Vera fight. The Vera fight, like, at least he won 1 or 2 rounds and it was kind of close. And then he got dropped by, like, crazy head kicks or something. But the Aldo fight was weird, man, because he, like, with the Vera fight, he won maybe, like, 60% or something, like 55%, But with the Aldo fight, he won, like, 80% of the fight. And somehow he just ended up losing. It was crazy to watch, man. And, seeing someone get hurt that much in a 5-round fight is not good. But shout out to his recoverability, man, because Jesus Christ, like he got dropped bad 3 times in an Aldo fight or twice and rocked another time. And he never quit, he never quit, man. He always fought back and he's a tough motherfucker. Maybe his chin's gone, but his heart is definitely not gone. And we saw that again in the Vera fight. In this fight, I do think he's going to get out volume Yanez. But honestly, man, I like the way Yanez throws short hooks. I like the way he throws short combinations. He doesn't throw them like boxing style. Sometimes he does, but he doesn't throw him where he turns his whole body in and he rotates his whole body. What he does is he just throws short shots like little hooks, right? And that's good when you have MMA gloves because, as we know, man, like MMA and boxing, first of all, the striking's completely different. But second of all, you shouldn't even train the same way. Like I see all these MMA fighters going and getting loads of tips off boxers. Like it's good to have tips on everything, but I honestly think boxing in MMA gloves is a completely different sport. We've seen it many times, right? I remember when Mike Perry fought the ex-world champion boxer and won the fight. Like I know that was like some weird triangle ring and rule set, but what I'm trying to say is like the way you box in MMA, it's very different than the way you box in boxing, right? For many reasons. One of the biggest reasons is because of the glove size. And I really think Yanez has such high-level MMA boxing. Like, if he went over to boxing, he might be all right, you know what I mean? But, like, MMA boxing is very high level. And, I nerd out on that sort of stuff sometimes with the striking. But anyway, I think he's going to land heavy shots on Rob Font in this fight. And so for that reason, I'm actually rocking with Yanez. I think Yanez gets the win. I'm happy to be proved wrong. I do think that Yanez is going to lose minutes. But I just don't see a 15-minute striking fight where Rob Font doesn't get hurt a couple of times. I honestly don't, man. So I'm going to go Yanez TKO. I know Rob Font, didn't get TKO'd in his last two, but the writing's on the wall, in my opinion. His chin may be dust. We'll see. But Yanez TKO is plus than 190. I don't love it. I honestly don't love it at the price, but I'm going to give it for the sake of the podcast, for the sake of the prop bet. So what do you think, man? Do you think I'm right in a way, or are you more on the Rob Font side?
Yeah, I actually do have a bet on Rob Font money line. So I'm kind of like leaning towards what you're saying before. One thing I like about, at least he took like a year off from after those two fights because he fought those fights really quick, back to back, like within like 4 months. So he took a lot of damage, like you said, in those two fights. So hopefully now that he's coming back, he'll be 100% again. But obviously, it's kind of like iffy. It's hard to say, when you start getting hurt like that so often, a lot of times it doesn't really come back. But Rob Font, one thing about him is he's still never been finished. Like he's never gotten finished before. The guy, like you said, it's like he'll get like in the verify. It looked like he was like almost out unconscious a couple times at the end of the round. He comes back the next round and is like whooping his ass again, like for the first 2 minutes of the round. It's pretty insane, right? It's like I don't get how he can recover that well, but the guy is super tough. And yeah, I mean, I think that the jab is going to be the main reason why Rob Font wins this fight. And we'll see if Yanez has done things to figure out that. Because if you watched the Randy Costa fight, I mean, the jab was destroying Yanez in that first round. Like, Randy Costa absolutely dominated that first round just by pressuring, staying with the jab, 3, 4, 5 jabs at a time, and just kind of Yanez likes to get in that, like you said, like he's really good with those short hooks, and if you can exchange with them in the pocket, kind of like your turn, my turn type of thing, he'll find his shots and he'll land on you and he can really hurt you and finish you off. And another thing about Yanez that I'm liking is he's definitely improving everywhere on the feet. Like you see him throwing a lot more kicks now. Like he used to never throw any kicks. And then obviously we've seen him get a head kick knockout in the UFC, and he's throwing a lot more leg kicks, front kicks to the body. So I feel like he's an athletic guy. He's learning quick and he's learning a lot of stuff. And but I feel like this is a big step up, man. I mean, so far the three out of the 4 guys that he's fought in the UFC, or 4 out of the 5 are not in the UFC anymore. They all got cut. And the one guy that he did beat, that's like, I don't think he's top 15, but you could kind of maybe slot Davey at the bottom of the top 15 if you wanted to be generous. And that was a split decision. That was a really close fight where I feel like Rob Font, it's just the value side. I feel like he should be the slight favorite in this one, even though Yanez is coming in with the momentum and Font's coming in off these losses. You could argue that he did beat Chito Vera if it was a 3-round fight. So it was 5 rounds. Those last 2 were 5-round fights. I feel like with the jab, with the pressure, he can out-volume him. And I think he can mix in some takedowns too. I mean, we haven't seen Yanez fight anyone that's really tried to take him down in a long time, but he does have some losses back in the day, like to Miles Johns and a couple other guys that did out-wrestle him. So I feel like Rob Font does have kind of underrated wrestling. He has decent back takes, and he could kind of use that to differentiate in close rounds. So I'm giving Rob Font one more chance here, but I do agree with you. It's like I think he's the better fighter, but if he can't take those shots anymore and Yanez can land like a few punches and hurt him, then he definitely could sway the fight. So it's kind of risky, I feel like, picking Font, but I think, he has the skill set to win, and we've seen him look really good in other fights. And I'm a fan of Rob Font's style. I think he's a beast, and we're going to see, who's the best boxer at 135. I guess Pereira also has something to say about that. But these are 2 guys that are really, really good boxers. So we'll see what happens, but I'm kind of leaning more towards Rob Font.
Yeah, look, completely understand. Like I said at the start of the breakdown, it's like everything's telling me that I should be betting Rob Font. But when I think someone's done or maybe their chin's deteriorated, I really like to capitalize, So we'll see, man. I'm doing that across the whole card, Like I picked Pinheiro. I picked Adrian Yanez. I picked Godinez potentially for a finish. And the reason is because I do think their opponents are maybe done, But obviously, I mean, they're not all going to be done, these fights. So there's going to be a few of them that I'm wrong about. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Speaking of fighters that are done, we've got another one coming up, man. This is Gilbert Burns versus versus George Masvidal. And man, honestly, I think George Masvidal's done. I don't really think it's a hot take for me saying so. Look, you go back to his fight, and again, man, everyone's going to be speaking about like, oh, but like he only lost to Usman and Colby in the last few years. Yeah, but he's looked bad in those fights. It might be like the Kamaru 1 fight didn't look bad. Like Kamaru 2 fight, he got knocked out early. I'm not going to say it looked bad, but like George's never been knocked out. I think he got knocked out once on like not Rising, but what's that what's the old school
Pride?
Did Masvidal fight in Pride?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I know
remember
he fought in Strike Force, but
yeah, I need to find. I feel like Pride's a bit before his day, but he has been around for a while.
yeah.
Look, his Tapology.
Maybe it was like Dream or one of those
I
promotions.
think it might have been Dream. Might have been Dream, yeah. Because I think he got knocked out there in Dream once, right? But like other than that, I mean, that was a long, long time ago. I'm actually trying to look now, but yeah, that was a long, long time ago. Other than that, the guy's never been knocked out, So the guy is insanely durable. So for me to see him get knocked out against Kamaru Usman, it's just like, all right, he has never been knocked out in 15 years, and now he gets knocked out, right? Like it's just you have to just take a step back and go, okay, let's see how he looks next fight, right? Like maybe he's deteriorating now. Maybe the chin, because the guy's been dropped so many times, man. He got dropped by Calvillo like 10 years ago, yeah? Or whatever, 7 years ago. He got dropped by Darren Till. He got dropped by Stephen Thompson. He got dropped by Usman, who knocked him out. Like the guy's been dropped so many times, man. And maybe it's like, maybe it's catching up on him now. And so I feel like in this fight, he's got a very, very tough task ahead of him in Gilbert Burns, because I do think he's kind of washed. And on the other hand, Gilbert Burns is not washed, man. Gilbert Burns is looking like in the form of his career, honestly. I really think like after he survived that round 1 against Khamzat, even the first few minutes, like when he started like winning the rounds, winning the fight, he dropped Khamzat at the end of the second round, I think it was. Like he got this new sense of urgency in his career in general. I really think that invigorated him. I remember him after that fight, speaking with hella confidence, like, I just went to war with this guy. Khamzat was meant to be like, I mean, hype gets to everyone, even Gilbert. Like Gilbert stepped in there. He's an absolute badass, but I mean, he knew what Khamzat was bringing, and Khamzat brings the craziest pace and pressure you've ever seen, man. I mean, for Gilbert to go through that, I really think it invigorated him, and I think even in a loss, I really think it motivated him, man. And, his next fight, he completely dominated Neil Magny, and this guy's gunning for the title. You know what I mean? This guy's been fighting consistently. He's gunning for the title, He fought Neil Magny so recently. I mean, the guy's been in training camps. He is gunning for Leon Edwards. He doesn't have to fight Usman anymore. Usman knocked him out. He doesn't have to fight Usman. Usman's done. Usman's out of the game now, right? Now Gilbert's looking at it going, I can beat Leon. I can take this guy's back. I can sub him. Where George Masvidal, I mean, the guy's just, he's opening restaurants. He's got his own whiskey, mezcal, whatever he has. He's got game bred boxing the other day. I mean, the guy's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know what I mean? Like, he's catching cases on the streets of Miami and stuff. The guy ain't fully in it. Whereas Gilbert Burns is in the game. And as you know, man, that's a big thing when you're fully focused on one thing, reminiscent of the Conor and Khabib thing. Not saying the fight will go any other way, but Conor's out there spending his millions and Khabib is in the gym grinding, and it makes a difference, man. So I think Gilbert Burns is probably going to finish. I don't want to say finish because I'm torn on this one, man. I have to say, I think Gilbert Burns is going to win for sure. I will put this little caveat out there. George Masvidal is a good striker. He still hits very hard. He dropped Colby after being dominated. He looked like a plus 2,000 underdog, and he still dropped him in that fight, right? Gilbert Burns is chinny. I do believe that. So, I mean, I'll just leave that there, right? I'm not going to say it's out of the realm of possibility George could catch a knockout. But, more than likely, I see Gilbert basically dominating the fight. I think Gilbert can knock him out, and I think Gilbert can submit him. But I also believe that Masvidal is so tough. One of the toughest fighters I've seen in the octagon. So, I don't know, man. I'm torn. Like, does he get a finish or does he get a decision? So let me just look at the odds. So Burns inside the distance, because I wouldn't even play submission. A lot of people saying Burns submission. Let me tell you something now. Masvidal, amazing submission defense. We saw the Damian Maia fight, right? I think if Burns finishes him, I think he could be a knockout. I mean, we've seen him drop many times. He just got knocked out a few years ago. Burns can crack, man. He dropped Usman. He's knocked down. He knocked out Damian Maia. Like he can crack, man. He hits very hard. Dropped Woodley. So I definitely think that the knockout is live. If you're playing Burns sub, I would be very careful. If you think Burns finishes, I honestly would just go inside the distance. And at the moment, Burns inside the distance is plus 110, which I don't like. anytime I see plus 110 via finish over a guy like Masvidal, I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, let's give Masvidal a little bit more respect. The guy is so tough. So honestly, I'm going to lean Burns' decision. Maybe he knocks him down. Maybe he gets dominant positions. I think he looks like 8 minus 400, but maybe he just doesn't finish. So Burns' decision plus 160 is going to be my play. Maybe not my actual play, but at least my bet for this stream. Yeah, man. What do you think about this fight, Guru?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this one. I liked George Masvidal way back in the day, and I feel like, seeing him now, I agree. I mean, I don't think he's gonna win, man. I just don't think that he's gonna be able to get the job done because it's hard to pick him, man. It's just hard to pick him out. He hasn't fought in a year. He it's like he's talking about retiring. You hear him talking about retiring and all that, and he doesn't just have the game bred FC. He has like a bare knuckle MMA. He has another bare knuckle boxing thing that he's a part of. All this stuff that he's doing outside the cage. So I don't know if he's fully invested, but like you said, I mean, at the just money line, if you're looking at it like from a money line perspective, I think Masvidal is actually the value side because I don't get how you could bet like Burns at minus 500 price just because Burns, like you said, he is chinny, man. And it's going to come down to how he wants to fight. Because, like, his last fight, if he shows up like that, like where he fought Neil Magny and he took care of business, he took him down right away. He was, like, using ground and pound. I never seen him use ground and pound like that in the past. Like, when he took down Wonderboy, he was kind of, like, static and just holding him down. I don't know if that was just because, like, with Neil Magny, he's not as worried as, like, if he gets back to his feet, But he was way more aggressive and he finished him. And Neil Magny is a guy that kind of tends to get finished on the ground against like top heavy grapplers like that though, so I don't necessarily think you could expect him to look that dominant against Masvidal. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Masvidal does have a chance to knock him out though if he stays on the feet and tries to strike with him for sure, because I've heard him this week like a couple times say like, oh, I want to brawl with this guy and stuff like that. Like if he does that, then I think Masvidal is super live to win just because Gilbert Burns, man, the guy like you said, he gets hurt in a lot of fights, like super chinny guy. And he's gotten knocked out by 45ers and things like that. So I think that Masvidal definitely could catch him. But, yeah, I feel like Burns by decision is probably the play. Like, I do see some people talking about, like, George Masvidal could be competitive on the ground because he was, like, good against Damian Maia. Didn't really – I feel like Burns is going to do a lot more damage on the ground than Damian Maia did. It's just a different style of grappling. And I think that the cardio is going to be a big factor. Like, I could see the first round – maybe not even the first round, maybe like the first 3 or 4 minutes being pretty competitive and maybe Masvidal landing some big shots. But I think if Burns gets a takedown, maybe 2 takedowns, I think we'll see Masvidal get tired, man. I don't think that he has that grappling cardio, and I think that's like a big factor in a lot of his losses. But I think he's underrated at this point because like the guy can switch stances. He has good takedown defense. He's still fast, like at least from if you looked at his last fight. But I do think he's kind of slowing down a little bit. Like I don't think he looked as sharp in the Colby fight. And Burns is probably going to get the job done. But yeah, man, I mean, in Miami, I think it's going to be hard to finish Masvidal too. I think that's another added thing, like where he's going to be trying hard not to get finished, I feel like. And you have to give, I mean, even if you don't think it's going to happen, you were talking about Burns sees Leon there too. You have to give Masvidal that same thing, like where if he wins this fight, like he definitely could think like, Leon Edwards just get a strike with me. That's a way easier fight to win than anyone else for the belt. Like that would be his best chance too. So, but yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're picking like just a pure pick, Burns is like really easy pick. But money line wise, I mean, I would lean towards Masvidal. But as a prop, probably I would do the same prop you gave, probably Burns by decision, especially since it's more value than the finish too as well. So.
Yeah, I don't really understand why it's more valued as a finish. I mean, Masvidal is so hard to finish. I mean, when does Masvidal get finished? Like,
like in the UFC, he only got finished what? Like, is that one time? Or?
Yeah, just Usman. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, man, just Usman. Because like his last finish was over Toby Amada, wasn't it? That crazy that choke in Bellator.
Yeah, that was like in 2010 too, or something. So
yeah, ages. That was his last finish, I think. So
I'm trying to think. Like, I can't think of any other fight where I got finished and you like submitted or something. I can't think of it. So
no,
had to be the only one.
Yeah, so like I guess that like the bookies are getting sharper these days. You know, I don't know if you're noticing that as well, but I really am. Like when you look at the betting odds, I'm like, you know, a few years ago, like Burns, I don't know, like a few years ago, maybe not in this fight specifically, but a few years ago, I feel like some of the odds are just sharper these days, man. Like some of the prop bets and stuff, I'm like, oh, you're quite smart, you know. Like back in the day, they'd have like over 1.5s in these heavyweight fights where we know they're sloppy heavyweights. Like Chase Sherman, they'd always be like minus 110 or something, and like the over
Yeah.
1.5, and it'd always be set at 1.5. And nowadays they're setting them at like 2.5 because they know that they basically just used to blanket set every heavyweight fight at 1.5. You know, like. But nowadays, it's like they're doing 2.5 and stuff. They're quite smart. So maybe the books are looking at it and going, you know what? Like, we think Masvidal's finished. We think he's washed. He's been knocked out by Kamaru. Because I do feel like if he is finished, if he's washed completely, I do think Burns is going to finish him, you know. And I do think that he could be washed completely. And I don't read too much into this stuff, but, you know, Masvidal came in and like, he looked like he had a little bit of excess fat around the abdomen and that. Like, did you see that? What did you think? Did you read anything into his weight or look his physique?
I feel like he might have looked a little bit better in the past, but with like a guy like Masvidal, I never like look at him as like being a guy that was like ever in like incredible shape, you know?
No.
So I don't think it's like that big of a deal, but yeah, he probably like I do agree he was probably in better shape like when he fought Usman the first time, even
Yeah.
like though he came in like on that short notice and all that, like I saw there were like pictures side by side on Twitter and he looked better at the Usman weigh-in even though he had like 10 days to cut weight. So yeah, I do
Yeah.
think he's probably like maybe not as invested, but I think with like a guy like Masvidal, it's like he only has that one chance to win anyways, like finding that shot, and he's like a finesse guy, so I don't think it's like that big a deal if he's in like great shape. Because like I think
Yeah.
even if like he was in optimal shape and Gilbert Burns took him down a couple of times, I still see him getting tired either way, you know.
Yeah, I
But
feel you. Yeah, I guess it's just going to be like, does Gilbert finish or not? So I don't
yeah,
know, man. I'm looking forward to it. I do definitely do lean that Gilbert wins by decision, but I'm not really ready to play it because if Masvidal shows up there, like he's looking soft, like Jay says, if Masvidal shows up and he's just washed, then I'm gonna
yeah,
be like, Jesus Christ, he's just gonna get run through. So we'll see how it goes, man. The next fight, man, main event. We done it. We got all the way to the main event. This is a great main event. I can't wait. I know that you're a fan of combat sports as well. I know you don't only like MMA, so I'm pretty sure you know, like you've known about these guys for a while. I mean, maybe even Izzy before he came in, and I'm pretty sure you knew about Alex before he came in. And so this is a striker's delight, and I like striking. I like to train striking. I like to fight striking. So for me, this is a fight that I'm looking forward to. I mean, anytime you get two elite kickboxers going in there in MMA gloves, I'm going to tune in for it. You know, that's why I love watching One Championship, because they have the best Muay Thai guys in the world fighting in the cage with 4-ounce gloves. You know, it's like the ultimate form of violence. And that's what we got here, man. Alex Pereira. I mean, people are gonna say like, "Hey, look, you can't say ultimate form of violence and Israel Adesanya in the same sentence because he goes to a lot of decisions." But in this fight, he's a violent guy because he's almost finished Alex twice, and just the style that Alex has, he makes Izzy fight. He makes Izzy fight in close quarters. Like Izzy's not going to be able to dance around the outside for 5 rounds, right? Alex is too good of a striker to do that, to let him do that. Alex is too good of a technical striker. He knows how to cut the cage off. He has the power to stop Izzy. So Izzy's going to have to fight fire with fire at times here. And so he is going to be violent, you know, in this fight. And so is Alex. You know, Alex is the personification of violence. I've been saying all week, Alex's left hook is like Crocop's, is the new Crocop left kick, because like it's the one shot that just does more damage than any of his other shots by a mile. It's like it's a different person when he throws the left hook. Now he's got good strikes in all of his limbs. You know, he's got good knees. I mean, doesn't throw too much knees to be honest, but he's got good leg kicks, good front kicks, good straight hands, whatever, good jab. But his left hook is like miles above everything, man. We saw the left hook knock Izzy out in the second fight, in the kickboxing fight. We saw the left hook actually knock Izzy out in the third fight. Everyone thinks it was the flurry, but if you go back and watch it slow motion, Izzy was all right. He was hurt. He was wobbled, but he was okay. He was dodging still. He likes to lean back against the fence and play the head movement, Anderson Silva style. He was still doing that. But Alex caught the left hook. Once he caught the left hook, the fight was over. Izzy's eyes rolled back in his head and the fight was over. After that, it was just a formality. Alex landed a few shots and it was done. So in this fight, I think it's 50-50, man. I do think that Izzy has... It's funny because Izzy's won the majority of minutes over the free fights. Like, I'd say Izzy's won about 65% of the free fights. I felt like Izzy edged the first fight, but it was very close. I mean, I felt it was like 55-45 Izzy, maybe even 50-50. But in the second fight, I felt like Izzy was, doing better. I feel like Izzy was winning that fight. And then in the third fight, Izzy was clearly winning the fight. It was 3-1. It was closer than a lot of people say, in my opinion, because the first round was super close, but Izzy almost knocked him out. So then he got that round on a judge's scorecards. Maybe that round would have been scored for Alex. I kind of am leaning Alex before that shot from Izzy. So if that was the case, it would have been 2-2 going into round 5. Whereas everyone's saying it was 3-1, Izzy was dominating. But overall, I do think Izzy was winning the majority of the fight, especially with the grappling. So I feel like it's 50-50 because Alex has got that one-hitter quitter. He's got way more power than Izzy. He has more finishing upside than Izzy. But I think Izzy's the better technical striker, not the more effective, because people are coming at me. How can you say he's a better striker than Alex? Alex is a 2-time Glory World Champion. Izzy wasn't. I mean, it's not I'm not necessarily saying that he's the more effective striker, but technically he's better, in my opinion. He can pick shots out better because if that was the case, well then Deontay Wilder would have never been boxing champion. I mean, the guy knocked out tons of better boxers than him, right? So everyone talking rubbish in the comments, understand what I'm saying. There's a difference between better technical striker and more effective kickboxer. So just clarify that before people talk shit in the comments. But anyway, I feel like this is a great fight. And I am leaning a little bit more towards the finish in this one. 2 out of 3 fights have finished, right? So I keep going back and forth. One day I'm speaking to someone, I'm I think Alex is going to finish him. The next day I'm speaking to someone else and I'm you know what? I think Izzy's got it this week. And then the next day I'm you know what, man? I think Alex is going to knock him out. So, bro, honestly, man, I'm going back and forth. 50-50 fight for me. I'm actually going to give the under out as a prop bet, though, because I think this fight's going to be violence, as I've said. Both fighters have finishing upside. We know for an irrefutable fact that both fighters can finish each other. Maybe you can come at me and say, no, it's not 100% Izzy can finish him because he's never done it. But I believe my eyes, and I believe that Izzy can finish him. And so the under is a good price, man. I mean, the under at the moment, well, I bet it already. So there's a free bet from me right there. I bet it at -105. And at the moment, so the line's moved a bit. You can get it for -120, -130. I still think that's good, man. I don't think the fight goes to decision this time. And so that's it, bro. A fight doesn't go to decision or under 4.5 rounds, -130 is good for me. I'm not going to give a pure prediction out because it's a 50-50 fight. I'm going to say Izzy just because I want Izzy to win. He's from Auckland, where I live right now. I see him quite often, actually, because Auckland's so small. So, yeah, I'm hoping Izzy wins, but I can't wait for it overall, man. What do you think of this fight? Who are you picking to win? And what's your favorite prop?
Yeah, man, I'm super hyped for this fight. I'm extremely excited for it. The first one, I was so pumped for that one. The first one because I just didn't really know what would happen in MMA. And Alex surprised me in that first fight, man, I got to say, because I really didn't think that if you look at their first fights or that at least whichever one, the second one where Izzy, both of them where Izzy was winning in the ring, he was moving around him and dancing around him pretty easy. He was walking him into shots and he wasn't getting backed up. But in that UFC fight, Alex was able to back him up to the cage so easily, man. I was pretty surprised by that. The way that Israel was backed up behind the black line almost the whole fight. Alex had him where he wanted him really the whole time. And yeah, I think Izzy in this fight definitely has to address the leg kick somehow. He has to check those kicks right away because that's basically, he even admitted it, that's kind of what cost him the fight because he couldn't move as well going on in the later rounds and things like that. But I don't know, man. I just don't I do agree that it's a close fight, but I don't like Izzy's vibe this week, man. I don't like it. I don't like the whole super short with the media thing, the dog collar and whatever he was doing at the press conference. I feel like he's kind of even today, like on Twitter, like he's like going off talking about like have USADA check him for 24 hours straight. Like, why is he saying that? Like, obviously he's, I don't know if he's building in excuses or what it is, but it's like I feel like I don't know. I don't like his whole demeanor this week, and he's coming back really fast, man. Like that fight, like you said, like some people are saying like, oh, he didn't get knocked out, it was only a TKO, but I mean, I feel like he was like one punch from going out unconscious, like out cold. So that was a lot of damage that he took, regardless. And they're coming back really pretty quick. Like I feel like he should have taken off like 6, 8, 10 months instead of what it's been like for less than 5 months since their last fight. And yeah, man, I just feel like Pereira, like even though it's a close fight on paper, I think Pereira just has that mental edge that I have to pick him. And even when you're like you were talking about the first fight, I do agree that a lot of people are kind of overblowing how dominant Izzy was in the fight because I think Alex clearly would have won that first round. I mean, he got caught with what, 2 seconds left. So I think it was more. I don't know if it was Izzy. Like I heard him this week saying, "Oh, he figured him out at the end of the round," but I think it was more Alex kind of just relaxed the last 5 seconds of the round, and he got clipped and almost knocked out. So that's easily correctable. You know, you could just be locked in for the whole entire round. Like, don't shut down with 5 seconds left and get clipped, and it would have been 2-2 going into the fifth, and then he finished him. So I feel like Israel, he can hurt him, but I think to finish him, I think it's going to be hard, man. We've never seen Israel actually finish the job and take out Pereira like that, and like you said, he's going to have to fight in this fight. Like these other fights where he has a massive reach advantage, he can kind of just play tag for the whole fight. And this one, you know Alex is going to make him fight. He's going to have to take some shots. And I don't know how you could expect him to take those shots better than he did the first time they fought when he had a long extended period of time where he was taking really relatively no damage. He was dominating. He was probably at the highest confidence he's ever been in his career. And now he's coming off a loss. He's going to have to bounce back from that. And he just took a lot of damage. So I feel like he potentially won't take the shots the same. And it's another thing, too. Like, he has been the champion for a long time. Like, 5 years at this point? Like, he made a lot of money. And he fights so often, man. That's one thing about Izzy you gotta respect. But I think it does, like, if he would have spread out these title defenses, like, he probably could have gone on, like, a 5, 6, 7, 8-year run as the champ. But he fights like every 3 or 4 months. Like he's always in the cage all the time. And if you're going to be fighting that often, eventually, you know, you're going to get figured out and people are going to know what to do. And Pereira, you know, he has that ultimate confidence against Izzy too. So that does, I agree. It does make Izzy more live for the finish, I think. How weird that sounds, you know, because it's like he has that advantage where he thinks that he could just take Izzy out or Izzy's like might be a little fragile. And Israel could connect on him, you know, if he's too over aggressive or something like that. But yeah. I don't know. I just got to lean with Pereira, man. I mean, the guy's huge too. Like he's bigger than Izzy by a pretty significant margin, I think. And yeah, man, I just feel like Pereira's going to get the job done. And I feel like a lot of people underestimate Pereira, man. I feel like if he fought some of these guys like Chimaev and these guys, I'm not going to come out here and say I think he'll win, but I think his size is a big factor that people don't take into account. Like Israel with the grappling, I see people saying he could take him down, and he could, but he didn't take him down in the first fight. Like he never took him down. He got taken down himself, and then he kind of like got on top off of like some weird like Alex tried to body lock him and like tripped, and then Izzy got on top, and he did dominate like from the top position. But to expect Izzy to come in here and take him down with wrestling, I just think that's going to be really hard. Like to do that multiple rounds. So I don't know. I'm leaning pretty confidently towards Pereira, man, honestly. And I would give out Pereira by knockout. So that's kind of what I'm leaning on. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be mad to see Izzy win. But the thing is, if he won, I hope they wouldn't run it back again, man. I'm sick of these freaking rematches, like every fucking card. Like even though I'm a fan of Juliana Pena because I did win money on her the first time she fought Amanda, like I don't really want to see that fight again either. But yeah, like hopefully if Alex wins, you know there'll be a new opponent next. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Alex.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's won 3 times already, right? So it's like it's not a hot take that he's gonna win again, but he's an underdog. You know, I was quite surprised,
crazy, right? Like it's like you beat him 3 times, you'd think he would be the favorite, right? But
Yeah, definitely. And Pereira KO is nice. It's like plus 200, man. Like that's.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
kind
you think if he wins, it's probably going to knock him out. Like he's done it twice already. So
of, and like if he lands that left hook, it's like Israel's not going to take that shot. You know, it's like it'll be
no,
over.
no one can take that shot. I
Yeah,
honestly think he can move up and like he could easily like high roll a knockout at light
yeah.
heavyweight and
Like
become
if he
double
fought
champ.
Jamal Hill, that would be. I think that'd be a good matchup for him to take the belt for sure. Like if he fought a guy like that,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
not that.
sport striker.
Yeah, yeah, or even Jury too. Jury would be even easier to me. I think he would knock
Yeah,
Jury
Jury's chinny, man.
really
Jury's
bad, but I don't
yeah.
know.
Oh,
I
it's
think
gonna
he.
be a good fight.
But yeah, that fight will be sick tomorrow. I'm definitely. It should be good, man.
Honestly, I don't mind like if they do rematch again, like if Izzy wins, just because I really like I just love high level striking, you know what I mean? So I feel like I could just watch that
Yeah,
again and again. Like the Pena one, like I don't want to see that shit because that was just like I mean that's not high level striking, you know what I mean? But like this one,
yeah,
I wouldn't mind seeing it again, you know, but that's only if Izzy wins, so we'll see if he can do it.
yeah. What do you think? Did you actually like, as an Izzy fan, did you want him to come back straight away and take this fight, or would you have rather him like fought someone else?
Nah, I think you might as well just come back, man. Because like I don't think Izzy's gonna be around forever. And it's like you
Yeah,
almost had him the last time. You're in shape. You're in camp. You know, you've just got reads off him. Like you're familiar with him. You just done a camp for him. Just come back, man. Like maybe could have give it a bit longer. Like instead of 5 months, maybe like 8 months or something. But I mean, taking another fight in between. I don't know, man. Like the older he gets, the more washed he gets. You know what I mean? Like for him,
yeah.
he's been around so long. I don't think he could motivate himself to fight for a non-title fight against a random up and comer, you know. So
Yeah.
no, I like that he's coming back and fighting
So if
the person.
he loses this one, you think he might retire then, or you think he'll do it? He'll go
I
fight
feel
like.
like I don't know, just like the person he is. I think he would, you know, like I think
Yeah.
he'd retire or like move up in weight or something. I just can't see him like fighting contenders. I might be wrong, but just
Yeah, I don't
I
even know who
know,
he would fight. Like if he stayed at 185, like who would you have him fight? Like it would
yeah,
have
like
to
the Lidze or something. I don't know, but
Duplessis or something. Like something like
yeah.
be like some fight that's irrelevant. Yeah, like it'd be like if you had Israel like line up against Duplessis, it's like why would he be motivated for that fight?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
Izzy's type of person, like everyone's different, but like Izzy's someone who really wants to achieve greatness, you know, like we see him step up against Jan Blachowicz, you know, like he's jumping back in against Alex Pereira after losing 3 fights in a row to him. Like the guy obviously always wants big challenges, you know. He's always making big deals and he's a big personality. So I don't think he could get motivated for those type of fights, man. But he's a professional, he's done it before, so maybe he can. But man, yeah, I'm excited for this one, bro. Like, I'm on the UFC website now. I think you can see it. Have you ever seen this before? Look, it's got the weight, right? But then they've got like some random weight, 206 pounds for
Yeah,
Pereira. Do you know
199.
what is that?
Yeah, that's not right. I mean, they both obviously made 205, but I don't know why it's like
Well,
that.
they made 185, right? But
Or
like,
185, yeah, yeah.
but then
I
if I
get
go,
thrown off by the 206. Yeah.
but everybody has this. I'm wondering, is this like the weight in their last fight, like on fight day or
Oh,
something?
it
Because
could be, but I,
if
I thought that Pereira would weigh a lot more than that in comparison to Izzy. What was it?
what
It said 208 or
Yeah,
205.
Izzy was 199 and he was 205. I mean, 205 is 20 pounds. Like I could see him. I don't know. I
But
feel
you
like that's
think you think he's only 5 pounds heavier than Izzy though in the cage? I don't. It looks
maybe
like that's true. It looks like a lot more.
because
That's a
look at this
lot.
one. Rodriguez missed weight, but they got him as 154 and Rosas as 141.
Yeah, that see, how could he? I don't think he gained 20 pounds, man. Like, if he did,
Yeah.
that's a lot of weight. Like,
Well,
maybe that's
actually,
for the 155 fight or
but his
40.
last oh no, his last fight was 135. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Who knows? But I've never seen that before, so I was just like thrown off by it. Like, what the hell? That might be the in weight
go
because
to
I'm
the
always looking.
go to the Masvidal. I want to see like what they have him as. Like, because I'm
Yeah,
curious.
184.
You might be right. It might be, but see, like, you think he's bigger than Burns? He weighs more on fight night.
I mean, yeah, I'd say they're about the same. I reckon.
I feel like Burns like has more muscle, but maybe yeah, I guess maybe they're probably similar. They both came up from 55, so. But yeah, I
Who
never
else?
saw that either. I don't know.
We got like who else would? How could we find out if it's true? We'd have to do someone
Or
that like
like
we train
Pinheiro,
with.
like does she gain a lot of weight? Like I don't know.
Pinheiro's at 124. It must be something. It can't just be random weight because it's like so specific, like 128.4.
So it's saying I guess Pinheiro is small though, because Michelle's usually small, but
Yeah. I don't know. But that's interesting anyway. But man,
yeah.
listen, we're done, bro. I won't keep you for too long. I mean, I've already kept you for too long, 2 hours, but it's been fun, man. I can speak about fights, for as long as possible. So yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man. Shout out to the chat as well. And look, plug your stuff, bro. I mean, I've spoke to you for long enough. I know you got your YouTube channel, you have your Patreon as well. You got stuff going on. You're always putting out YouTube. You're always putting out YouTube videos and Twitter content and stuff. So yeah, the floor is yours, bro. Please plug your stuff.
Yeah, man, this was fun. I know we're hopefully gonna do it again on my channel soon, do another breakdown. So yeah, man, glad to talk to you finally. With our voices and shit. So that was fun, and I
Yeah.
feel like we had like some similar reads. Like hopefully that Bahamondes shit
Mm.
goes on. Hopefully the GM3 thing
Yeah.
breaks for us, and we'll make some money tomorrow for us and for everyone else. So that'll be good. And yeah, man. I mean, obviously, if you go to youtube.com/MMA Prediction Guru, you'll find me over there. And I've been doing videos for a while. Obviously, me and Lucrative MMA, man, you're getting a good show here. I mean, we're both like top 10 in the world on, if you take out the reckless cappers on Bet MMA tips. I have over 250 units profit. I know he has like over 300 units profit. So two of, the best gamblers on YouTube for sure. And yeah, man. So if you go to patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru, you can find my stuff for outside the UFC, and all my bets are on there. I do a lot of breakdowns and bets for other promotions as well. And I know Lucrative MMA does that too. That's one thing that I feel like you can make money on that a lot of people don't exploit, because you're talking
Yeah.
about the lines being sharper in UFC. I don't necessarily think it's that level in certain other
No.
promotions. So there's definitely some opening lines and things like that you could get good value on. So definitely check out patreon.com/MMA Prediction Guru. And yeah, man, you can find me on YouTube. Type in MMA Prediction Guru. So appreciate you having me on, man. Give me the platform, and hopefully we can do it again for sure.
Yeah, definitely, man. Everybody go check out Guru's stuff and check out me and him doing another prop show on his channel, like he said, at some point in the future, maybe for another pay-per-view, next pay-per-view or something. And to everybody in the chat, thank you for being here. If there was no chat, if there was no viewers, we wouldn't do it. So there is. So shout out to everyone. We'll be back soon, and good luck on all your bets tomorrow.